Oh, Lynn.
Yep.
Lynn's fishing. All right. We have Want to Be Outdoors. We have Country Boy in chat. The Wandering Fisherman. George Ray. Lynn. Catfish Fever and Outdoors. Hey, all. How you all doing tonight? Tonight, it's all about country boy catfishing. So, it says one watching, but I know I have more than that in here.
Yeah.
Fixing to find out for sure because StreamYard's so damn slow, it's not even funny.
Yeah, and I know Palmetto was live, so I figure people will start filtering in. And
Oh, he's still alive, and he should be almost done.
is he?
Because
Yeah,
he said once it hits 9 o'clock, he's going to be out of it.
yeah. He had Anna out there, and she was cold. Dan Thompson's in the house. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, Dan, how you doing, bud? I don't have any mods in here. I will have in a minute. All right, now it says we have 3 people in here. What do you have to, Littlefoot? Want to be outdoors? See if it worked. See if he came up blue. Yep, he came up.
Yep, I see it on my phone.
He went from gray to blue.
Yep. Yeah, see, I can't see it in the live chat, but I've got my phone laying down here with this pulled up, and
Right.
I can see it in the chat there. I'm a Smurf, he says.
Yeah, you went from Bigfoot to Little Smurf. Want to be outdoors? You went to a Smurf from Bigfoot. Hey, Josh Friday. Mo Creek. Josh Friday, I fished with him at the meet and greet. He's a friend of Jason Lamb to come in and chat. If you know Jason Lamb by chat.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Friday's a friend of his, and he comes down to every meet and greet. Boy, those two can tear up some fish.
That was nice. Looks like Table Rock made it in, and
Table Rock, Ace.
Yeah, Ace. Yeah.
I got a few mods in here now.
Yeah, I was watching you go live from the meet and greet, and I was expecting at least somebody to land a big one up there. I was waiting for it at any moment.
Well, the way that water temperature is going up there, fluctuating, it wasn't doing the fishing any good. But that night of the bragging rights tournament,
yeah,
where me, Jason, and Josh went underneath this bridge where there's a hole. Boy, Josh and Jason was tearing it up down there.
Nice.
I spent more time taking pictures for the tournament than I was catching.
Yeah.
Hey, Becca, how you doing?
Mad Catter made it in.
Hey, Richard Ward, how you doing? Hey, Epic.
Epic.
Yep.
Chris
Yuselton? Is that how you pronounce that?
I would assume so.
Rex Blocker?
If we're wrong.
Correct us if we're wrong, Chris. I didn't go fishing this weekend because all the pleasure boaters and everybody out on the river.
Yeah.
But next Saturday morning, I plan on hitting the Mississippi.
Yeah, I know people have mixed views on that about the boating pressure, but to me, uh, man, if you're fishing and you've got tons of boat traffic, uh, I think you're just wasting your time. It stirs up so much and just makes a mess of things.
It
And
does.
uh, to me, when I fish, I go out there to relax. And if I've got guys buzzing my lines and just constant bombardment and waves pounding in, it doesn't make it very fun.
No. Hi, Elston, Mr. Chunky Cat's catfishing.
Yep, Chunky made it in. Surf ends, catfishing, John Boy. Hey guys, thanks for coming in.
I know you would, Epic. I'd probably be the one that'd probably be trying to hit one of the boats that's getting too close to the bank.
Yeah. Uh, bank fishing, you run into that. Boats getting
Hello, Eric Burnside. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
you run into that with guys running into your lines, and sometimes it can be very, very aggravating.
Yeah.
Epic says
Uh,
he gave lessons on boat etiquette.
that's what they need out there in the river. People to give that someone to give them a lesson on boat etiquette. There's Maurice Kaysen, the most famous YouTube supporter of all time.
Yep. See, Brad Caudell made it in.
Hey, Brad Cardell, you'll be on next Sunday night. He's gonna be the next guest. Hey,
There's
Norm,
Norm.
I like your new channel you got. Pan fishing with Norm.
I was
Two
glad
Saints fishing,
to get more Norm.
huh?
I was glad to start seeing more of Norm lately, and Becca coming back in.
So am I.
It was nice to start seeing them more regular and more frequent.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Hey, wondering, weekend angler Josh, how you doing? So give us a little background history on you.
Well, I basically fished all my life. Uh, I really didn't have anyone to take me. I kind of took myself. I went out there, and we didn't have the avenue of YouTube and the fishing community that we got now. So most of the stuff that I learned was by trial and error. Kind of swim or drown kind of thing. And I basically had to teach myself. And I figured out things that would work, things that wouldn't work, what to look for. I always take mental notes, not only when I'm catching fish, but when I don't catch fish. What's going on, what's the conditions, what's the weather, what's the pressure, am I in structure, am I out of structure? I try to study the fish and figure out why they are in an area and why they're there at certain times of the year. And so I basically kind of taught myself uh, every time you go fishing, it's still a learning experience. You will never be able to just pinpoint it and go out there and say, we're catching fish here today. The fish don't always work that way, they don't cooperate. So it's a constant, I call it a chess game. You're matching wits with these fish and Mother Nature, and you're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out what's going on.
What do you think of cold pressure fronts when they move in?
A lot of times before the front hits, I think it can turn the bite on, but there's a small window and after a front system. But during the frontal system, I don't tend to have that much luck. I know a lot of the times, even during the spawn period, the fish will be pulling up to spawn, and that cold pressure front will come in, and that temperature drops, and you'll see the fish pull back out. And I typically don't like that because I think when the fish spawn in deeper water instead of their normal spawning grounds, I don't think as much of the hatch survives because
No,
you've got so many more predator fish out there.
right. So between a cold pressure front and a high pressure front, which would you rather fish?
Uh, I would probably say the high pressure front uh, because usually it's going to dwindle down faster. The high pressure front tends to move faster. It will come in and go out quicker than the cold pressure fronts.
A3+1, Uncle Lou, Justin Fishing Fetish, Big Slim,
There's Cody from 3+1.
Cody from 3+1. You guys did an awesome uh, live yesterday.
And see,
So
even with
go
the
ahead.
even with the fronts with the high pressure or the cold pressure, you know your bite's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be on fire. But to me, that gives me more of a challenge because I go out there and I'm trying to figure these fish out in these situations. Because, you know, the chances are if you can find them on one pressure front, the next time that same area or that same pressure front comes through, uh, you're going to have more information to go off of. You're not going to waste as much time searching for the fish, and it'll help you get on more fish and be more consistent. Because, you know, it's Mother Nature, it changes all the time. If you only go fishing when the conditions are perfect, you're not going to get to fish very much.
No.
You have to adapt, you have to evolve and kind of learn and figure out what you can do uh, to increase your chances.
Okay, here's a debate that a lot of bank fishermen have up around Alton. They say they'd rather fish before the rain, but not during the rain. I say I'd rather fish during the rain because the fish bite better. What's your opinion?
I've caught them both ways. I will say uh, the bite that I've had in the rain, if the bite was on before the rain gets there, like if you're on a hot bite, the time of year, spring, uh, especially if it's a hard rain and it starts to raise the water up, man, right as that rain's hitting and that water starts coming up, can be a phenomenal time to fish. Uh, if it's just like a slow, steady rain, uh, I don't think it really affects the fish that much. If they're biting before, they'll hit during the rain. But some of my best fishing has been right before the storms.
Mm-hmm.
I've fished in tornadoes. They've actually come out on the lake and were trying to get me to leave the water, and the fish were just on fire. And of course, I stayed. I wouldn't leave them. And I've had lightning hit the water and had to run me off the water before because the bite is so great, and you get so few chances when everything just seems to line up and you can only fish with one rod because the fish are biting so fast. All you have time to do is get that one rod in the water. You don't even put it in a pole holder. You just hold it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those are the moments that I really long for. And I seem to have them before the storm hits, before the rain starts falling. Uh, but I have caught fish during the rain. And like I say, that's just another challenge, another obstacle. Uh,
I've had that kind of obstacle happen to me where I couldn't keep two rods in the water, and I've caught close to 400 pounds of fish in 4 hours, and they were biting like that, just back to back with whatever bait I put on it, whether it be shad, bluegill, skipjack, whatever.
Yep.
They were just in a feeding frenzy right there in broad daylight, and they were just slamming every bait I put out there.
Well, and that's the thing with the catfish. If you catch them and you're on the active feeding catfish and they are hungry, they're going to come in there and smash whatever you got. I mean, I've seen people catch them on Cheetos, gummy worms. Uh, you know, when the fish are hungry, you can catch them on just about anything. That does not mean that that's an ideal bait. That's what you want to fish with all the time. Don't get caught up on the gimmick, guys.
I,
Gimmick baits get a lot of people.
I tried it once. I tried during that feeding frenzy. I threw a bare hook out there once, thinking I was going to get hit.
Well, sometimes used to, if you've got current moving, the old mustad hooks, the J hooks and stuff, were
Right.
bright, shiny, and look like stainless steel. Well, in that water, if you got waves crashing in and moving, it's moving that hook. And a
Yeah,
lot of
and
if
it's
they're
flashing.
shad, yeah, if they're shad in that area, they would hit that hook because they think it's part of that school of shad.
Right. I did it with a red circle hook and caught a blue cat with it
Yep.
because it looked like a blood trail.
Yep. I've seen Stan made it in. Dan's a big.
Muskrat, Roger, P City,
Yep.
J Fox. But so what kind of gear do you like using the most?
Man, on my reels, I'm a diehard Abu Garcia. I've used them for many, many a year. I've never had any issues with them. Uh, One of my favorites is the 7000 IC3, just because I've got larger line capacity than like the 6500 wide spools that I run. And I really love that 7000 IC3, but they discontinued it and they're still making 7000s, but I've yet to get my hand on one and see how uh, much alike they are to the 7000 IC3. The 7000 IC3, when it come out, it was basically a saltwater reel, and it's got corrosion resistant bearings and stuff in it, and that thing will handle a tank. Uh,
I'm
on
going to ask you a question, the same thing I'm going to ask Epic whenever I can get him up here as a guest. For new people that are going to go fish a river like the Mississippi, the Ohio, the Tennessee, or the Illinois River, or a big river like that that's real hard, heavy flowing,
Yep.
what advice would you give them to fish it?
Man,
Either from a bank or from a boat.
gather as much information about the body of water before you step on it. You want to know uh, what the water depth is, where the drops are, where the scour holes are. Uh, you got to pay attention to that. Local bait shops, other anglers, talk to these guys because some of these guys, that's all they've done. They fished that one body of water their entire life. And they may know things that Navionics doesn't show, Google Maps doesn't show. A lot of them old timers, they know stuff just from years and years of experience on the water. Uh, the more information you gather about any body of water before you fish on it is going to make you a more successful fisherman. Uh, you know, if the fish are early spring and are coming up to the shallow and they're feeding that shallow water, it's not going to do you any good to go out there and fish a 60-foot hole if the fish are all up in the shallow water. So, know where the fish are at, try and gain as much knowledge as you can, and don't be afraid to ask questions from other anglers. Keep an open mind. You'd be surprised what you can listen from people if you don't think you know it all and just will sit down, keep your mouth closed, and open your ears and listen to what people have to say.
I agree with that one. Now, I know we lightly covered your tackle,
Yeah.
but what kind of rods do you use and why?
Right, right now, I've got some uh, trolling rods, Tidewater. Uh, I've had good luck with them, but there are so many great rods out on the market now. You know, when I first started fishing, there was not rods catfish specific. Uh, Now there's so many companies that are targeting just catfish, and there are so many great rods on the market. I would like to get more rods. I would like to upgrade them. I've had these for years. I've got some of the old original ugly sticks before they started going white with them that are still the dark black with the white glow in the dark tips on them. Uh, they're great rods. The Tangling with Catfish makes good rods. Chris Flores, Muddy River Rods. There's a lot of great rod companies out there. The main thing I would tell people is match your rod to the fish you're going after. If you're catching, 2 and 3 pound channel cat, you don't want to go out there and get an extra heavy rod because it's going to be like fishing with a broomstick. You're going to take that fight out of that fish and take a lot of the fun out of it. Uh, you can go out there catching 3 to 8 pound fish on a medium action rod and have the time of your life. You get to feel the fight. So match your tackle for whatever you're going after.
Now, I believe in having a drag set to fight a fish.
Yes,
I know some people don't like having their drag set because they'd rather horse it in,
that'll cause
which hurts the fish more.
it'll
So,
the
what would
fisherman.
you say about that?
I would rather have my drag too loose as too tight. Because if you're out there fishing and you're fishing an area or a body of water and you know there are big fish in it, when that fish hits that rod and he takes off, if your drag is too tight, he's either going to break your line or he's going to pull the hook free from his mouth. You'll see them where they've got scars on the side of their mouth by their whiskers where they
Right,
pull loose. That's from having your drag too tight. Uh, a big fish is not going to give you the opportunity to, hey, wait a minute, let me back my drag off. Uh,
nope.
when he hits, he's going to be gone. So it's better to have your drag too loose because you can always tighten it up if you need to. But when I set mine, and every time I cast my rods out on every fishing trip, even with the Abu Garcia reels that I use, I always check the drag. I take my hand and I pull that line, and because sometimes the drag will stick, and it doesn't matter on any rod, any reel. There's a time for error, and I always check my drag every single time and take my hand and pull it and make sure it's smooth and it's free. With drag and big catfish, it's not just the amount of drag you have, it's how smooth the drag is. You don't want a drag that sticks and hangs and is real choppy. And
Right.
you want something that it's very smooth. And if you've ever pulled the drag on a reel, you'll be able to tell. You'll have them ones that lock and skip, and then you'll have them ones that just smooth. It's just a nice steady flow, and that's what you want: smooth drag. And don't fish with your drag too tight. I've seen people break their rods, break their line, pull the fish loose from the hook, and it's all because the drag was just too tight.
Epic says the same thing, but I like how he has it worded.
Yeah,
No way to land an epic flathead blue with a cinched drag. None.
especially I think more with the flathead because when they make that initial surge and they decide they're going to go, they go with such force. There's so much power behind them that if that drag is tight, like I say, they're going to break that rod, they're going to break the line, or they're going to pull that hook out of their mouth. And drag will make you or break you. And guys talk about rods. The ugly stick rods have been around forever. Uh, I have seen some massive fish caught on the ugly stick rods. I've caught a lot. Uh, if you use your rod, and that's another reason I like mono. With mono, I got stretch. Your line, and you use the drag on that reel. It will help increase your odds on these big fish because instead of horsing them in, wear that fish out. Let the equipment do the work for you. There's an old saying: "Work harder or smarter, not harder." The same thing. Uh,
Right.
fish fish smart. Don't make it harder on yourself than it has to be.
Epic, I would like to get you up here one Sunday night as a guest, as well as Mike Irving. And one night I'd like to get Country Boy up here with Epic and Mike Irving on panel so they can answer everybody's questions. Because I know the three of them would be amazing with their information that they have.
Anytime, Avid. That's just like people. If you've ever watched Tim Scott, he'll talk about his leaders and stuff. And when he tells people he's using a 200-pound leader line, they're
There's
like,
a reason for it.
gosh, 200 pounds? Well, people don't understand a lot of the places he's using that. He's fishing sunken barges and stuff.
Right. Sunken barges, sunken holes, metal that will
Yep.
cut anything
Short metal
under a 50
edges,
pound braid.
or he's fishing in places most people would not throw their line. And that's why he's successful catching these big fish because most people are not willing to sacrifice the tackle
No,
to catch those fish.
no, they're not. And he's using longer leaders.
Yeah.
He's using leaders from anywhere from 20 inches to almost 36-inch leaders of 200-pound uh, a leader line.
Roger makes a good comment right there. Muskrat Adventures. No stretch next to the boat. Gotta work them in.
Exactly.
There are probably, I'm going to say, 75% of the big fish that get lost up close to the boat because that is the most critical point to have your drag set correctly. Because a lot of times you'll get that fish up to the boat, and when he sees that boat, he's going to make another run. He's gonna take off again. And if your drag is set too tight and your line, when it's that short, does not have the stretch and the give in it, your rod can only take so much. At
Mm-hmm.
the time up close to the boat, it's more critical than ever to have that drag set right. Uh, so what if your drag's a little loose and that fish takes another 50-yard run downriver? He's still on that line. You can wear
Yeah,
it out and still get him back to the boat. Let
I agree with that.
let the fish fight. Take your time. Don't don't get too excited. Don't try and horse them in. Do not over tighten your drag.
As
Uh,
long as you got that drag set just right and he's running 50 yards of line and you got that tension on him, he ain't going nowhere.
well,
All you're doing is wearing him out a little bit, giving him enough line to where he'll wear out, where you can bring him in, land
yeah.
him, unhook him, and release him.
What gets me, especially I see a lot with new people that are new to catching the big fish and angling, and it goes for any species of fish. As soon as people hear that fish pull and drag, the first thing they want to do is they're like, my drag's too loose. I can't reel it in. No, let that fish go ahead and take that drag. Uh, you don't want it free spooling. Obviously, you just want enough pressure on that fish that he's got resistance. Slowly wear him out and uh, take your time with him.
Yeah, Uncle Lou's definitely wanting to ask about talking about how and when and where to fish channel swings in rivers.
Yep. Uh, Uncle Lou, Epic is a great example of that. Uh, you know, you've got a lot of guys that spend a lot of time on the river. Roger, Muskrat Adventures.
Yeah, fishing wing dikes, fishing your swings, fishing your currents, your brush, your barges, your barge tie downs.
Yep.
They're all something that if you haven't fished them before, it's good to get information from someone who has fished them, like Epic,
Yep.
or watch his videos and he'll show you how to fish them. And Epic has some great information out there on his videos for fishing those kind of conditions.
Exactly.
And he's been in several live streams where he's talked about that. He's been in two stands. He's been in Country Boys, I believe, right?
Yeah, I've had Epic on my show. Uh,
Uh, Go back and watch him shows because once you go back and see them, he's even been on Muskrat's Adventures, I believe.
yep.
And you go back and watch his videos and live streams where he's been on and he's given all those great informations. That's something that's when you need to break out a pen and paper, start taking notes, because that guy has years of experience as a biologist and
Yep.
research and hands on, like I know Mike Urban has, because I've just recently found out that he was a biologist at one time.
Yep. I would love to spend more time talking with Epic. Uh, you could sit down for a month straight talking to him and never be bored. He has so much knowledge. He
You'd get lost. You'd get lost in there.
Yep. And if you notice, anytime Epic is on a live stream or a talk show, uh, don't go into that show expecting it to be an hour long. It's just not
No.
going to happen because he has such a wealth of knowledge, and it's new to a lot of us anglers, even people like me that have fished for years. He's still teaching me things. I can still learn stuff from him.
I
So
know.
we're hanging
Um,
on every word he says. And
I know. Me and you fish for a lot of years, and I know Epic's a few years younger than me, but I still pick things up from him.
yep,
I may be older than him, and I've been fishing, probably fishing longer than him, but there's still things I didn't know about certain biological aspects of the catfish that he's taught me and helped me with
yep,
to help me better understand them.
yep. He's helped a lot of people. And if you listen to him, he will explain things and it finally clicks in your mind. It's like a light bulb coming on. It's like, oh, that's why. And you can learn a lot from people like that. You know, I like watching Roger and Zach and Skip uh, out there, Muskrat Adventures. I love watching them go out. And anybody that I watch, I'm trying to learn stuff from. That's why, if you notice, when I'm in someone's live stream, I'm asking questions, and
Right?
I'm asking questions so that I learn because I'm absorbing this knowledge. Because if I ever go out on one of these bodies of water that these guys fish, I'm gathering all the information I can to where I'm still prepared. And Epic, his last video that he just put out, at the end of it, he's talking and he makes a perfect statement.
We're
He's like,
gonna have a surprise guest.
he's like catfish or catfish, no matter what body of water.
That surprise guest wants to come up and explain something.
All right.
I think you know who it is.
Yep, I do. I already seen it in the chat.
Man, you taking my fun away from me.
Don't believe that. I could get lost talking to Epic. I really do.
Well, see, you and Epic and me, we have a lot of these thoughts where I learn things from old school people,
Yeah.
where I don't like to use a lot of technology to do it.
Well, and I'll
But
see things like when I'm watching someone's live stream, I'm watching them fish a video they put out.
oh, guess who we got?
If I don't know the answer, Epic is my go-to. I'll call him up or I'll message
This
him.
Mr. Amazing.
Yep.
Hey, I love this conversation. That's why I wanted to get into it. I'm sorry, I was having a
No,
great
you're
time
more than
hearing
welcome,
you guys,
bud.
but that's something that I've had experience with that I would love to say out loud, and I really can't just say, hey, when you're battling 80-pound or 100-pound fish, but this really comes through in this conversation, and you guys are really to the point at which you guys can all understand this. And so we're talking about drag. First of
Yep.
all, most people, if
Right.
you have not caught an amount of big fish, say over 50 or over 70 or over 80, 100 pounds, do not try what I'm about to tell you. But if you do have some experience with it, then you can actually try it. If anybody out there goes back and looks at any of those epic videos that I have put up already, like Dangerous Waters or whatever, you will literally see my hand grab the entire rod, including the rod at including the line at certain times. Okay, so I'm battling fish in mega current, and they're big,
Yeah.
and they're strong, and they're all whatever. And I've got grouper rods, with giant pound tests and all that stuff. But you will literally see me let the fish take drag, go down, and I'll actually let up pressure, because if you keep the pressure on a fish, he fights you that much harder. What I
Yep.
want to do is I want to trick this fish, and you'll hear me say this in videos. It's time to trick them. So they're out, as when they're out there and you hook them, they're mad, they're angry, they're everything else. But by the time you can just sort of direct them to where they'll run along the bottom, you can literally lead them like a big dog. Now, when they get level, when they get okay, so here's the boat. I want that fish here. I don't want them way back before I start to put pressure on them, because once they come
Yep.
up, it's exactly like David just said. The more you put on that fish, the more he starts to roll and open his mouth and swirl his tail and do all that dragon stuff. Like they'll just start acting like creatures, but
Yeah.
they'll actually settle down, and you can get them to kind of swim along the bottom. And I've even, like the super monster, the 130, I actually got him to swim 2 boat lengths ahead of me, believe that or not. And if anybody watches it again, it's a subtle point, but you'll see the rod right before I end up landing that fish. Almost the rod, instead of being all super bowed over, it almost comes up for a point. And that point is when I'm taking him from 2 boat lengths up, 30 foot of water under, in 12-mile-an-hour current or 10 or whatever it was, straight up. And by the time I get him to the surface, he's at the middle of the boat, not the back of the boat, because there's no way to land those giant fish at the back of a boat.
No.
It doesn't, I mean, if you're in a lake, fine. I've seen it. I've seen 100-pound fish when people are standing at the back corner of the boat. But if
I
you've got
still
any
don't
sort
like
of
it.
current at all, you
Yeah.
got, that's the other thing. You'll notice, like channel cats, Sean and I will, and me and the kids, and I call them
Right.
little 30-pound fish and under, fine, at the back corner of the boat. But otherwise, I always either myself
Yeah.
or have somebody else go to the middle of the boat and then eventually to the front of the boat. And mine's an 18-foot long boat, because I need that
Right.
angle. I need
You
somebody to
get
be
that
able to.
boat up there. You get that cat up in the middle,
Yes.
like
So
you
if
do on your honey hole down below, up and
yes,
down by the wall.
yes,
That
yes,
that show. If anybody wants to go back and see that video, Epic
yes.
shows everything that he's talking about now in that video.
Exactly how to land those fish. And that's not the only example. The example is below wing dikes, on the main channel, 10 mile an hour down, 10 mile
Mm-hmm.
down, up in Dead Man's Hole, all those wing dikes and stuff that I fished that I've never even filmed yet, but I intend on filming them. But
Yeah.
anyway, it broke my heart a bunch of different times, because I've tried to land giant fish behind the boat. I've tried to do things where I didn't have a great drag, or my drag was too tight. I've busted off plenty of fish back in my younger days when I didn't know, maybe I lucked onto a few of them because I was just learning my epic spots and my epic baits and my donkey
Yeah.
baits and all this stuff. And I didn't quite have the tackle and I didn't quite have the knowledge. I broke off 70s at the surface. I broke off 80s at the surface. I've had 80, 90-pound flatheads that broke me off because they came up 25 feet behind the boat and started slapping around on the surface and then broke my 30-pound test because I was ill-equipped. And you'll hear me talk about those in those times in my videos where I wasn't even equipped to fish certain spots that I wanted to fish. I was ill-equipped. I had 3-ounce sinkers. I had baits that were too small. I had hooks that were too small. I just wasn't prepared. And I think it was Muskrat said, if you want to catch big fish, you got to be prepared to catch big fish. Now, I'm not saying you got to be overboard. You don't have to have a 100-pound test and a Penn Senator 4-aught. That's for like fishing in South America. And I've literally been spooled in 170 foot of fast water Snake River Canyon type stuff on the Xingu River with a Penn 4-aught Senator 100-pound test and blah, blah, blah. I know what that's like. And it's heartbreaking, when you're going after Piraiba and you finally lock into one and it just takes all your line and just dumps it off the end of the reel and you're stuck there looking like a complete dumbass. I did it. I know.
Yeah.
So any of you guys that are fishing rivers or big lakes with big fish, just remember a couple things that you don't do. Don't ever have the net guy ahead of you. Always have them downstream from you. And when you get that fish within that distance, never stab at the fish. Always go underneath the fish and try to hit them in the middle. That way they fold. And believe it or not, those huge fish fold in the middle. Everybody thinks you got to get the head in first. Well, you don't. You really want to aim for like the belly dorsal and then pick up straight up underneath them. You might have to, in current, you might have to jam it underneath them and pull up. Because I wish I had a nickel for every time I had a person in my boat that says, is that thing going to fit in that net? And I had a pretty big ass net. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to fit in that net. Otherwise, if it's not, I'm going to two-hand grab this thing. And so that puts everybody at ease. And the other thing, too, I used to put my hand on people's shoulder. Okay, so if Avid, if you're on the bank, CBC, if you're on the bank and you've got a person that's not really skilled at handling big fish, the hand on the shoulder is huge. And I did it with my customers a lot. I put one hand on the shoulder. I'd say, it's okay. Just settle down, because when you see this fish and you zoom out, it's going to scare you, because a lot of times they don't know that it's that big. But once they're looking for a fish in their comfortability range, and then they see one that is 5 feet long, and I've had customers and people and guys that I've helped and trained, they'll see that fish and it's at the top of the water, and that adrenaline rush goes through them, and they pull that rod up and snap the line right there. And luckily, I've been able to net a few, but some of them just swim back to the depths and their heart's broken forever because they may never get that shot again.
Yeah.
Now,
all right, fellas.
Here's a question in chat, Epic, that you can answer. How would you fish a swing dike?
A wing dike or a swing dike?
A swing dike.
A wing starts with an S?
Yes. Someone said it as a swing. I think they meant a wing dike.
I think so. Well, I have a video on my simplest pattern that I use for wing dikes, and it's only about 6-7 minutes long. So go to my channel and watch that, because that spells it out pretty much exactly how a normal wing dike situation is. Now, if the wing dikes are sticking out of the water, it's going to be different. If they're way underneath the water, it's going to be a little different than that. And it is a complex equation, but most of the time, a wing dike, what you want to do is basically mark fish that are below the wing dike or at the tip. If the water's low like it is now, you're going to focus on the tip. If it's high or medium, like normal flow, you're going to focus on the middle. If it's high flow, you're going to focus on the inside armpit. Now, most of the time, you go through there and you mark with your electronics what's going on if you can. If you're off the shore and you're walking out on the wing dikes, I mainly just walk out as far as I can and fan baits around and move things around. Like back in the day when I didn't even have a boat, and I would go to the Missouri, or I would go down to Alton, or I would go down to St. Louis. I just walk out into the wing dikes and start targeting the down. But I'd keep away from the gar and turtle water. That's the thing. I see a lot of people on YouTube, and I'm getting a little excited here, but I see a lot of people on YouTube fish wing dikes and they fish the dead water in between. There are a few catfish, but they're mostly 20s and 30s. Most of those big catfish are going to hang out in that current seam where that deep water meets a little bit, and the deep fast water is going to meet that slower water, especially
Right.
big blues. Big blues do not, and I repeat, do not love to hang out in slower water unless they have no choice. If they're in like
Right.
CBC situation where it's a lake and they just don't have any choice. But if they have a choice between some of the fastest, ugliest, scariest water that you can even possibly imagine fishing, that's where they're at. That's what I had to get into my head before I started locking into really big fish. I had to
Even
throw
in,
my channel cat and flathead mentality out the window and say, I need to be fishing these spots that are 30, 40, 50 foot deep as some of the fastest, stupidest current you ever wanted to see. And it's horrible to anchor there. I might have to anchor 3 times to get there. I've got a 40-pound anchor. It's one of those hurricane anchors. I might have to use 150 to 200 feet of rope just to be able to effectively anchor. Now, does that mean everybody's got to do like I do? Nope, it don't. They can do whatever they want.
No.
I fish around a lot of people that do not choose to fish the spots that I fish. They don't catch super monsters, but that's okay for them. They catch 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Fine. That's great. More power to them. But like a lot of people are like, well, aren't you worried about doing YouTube and having people fish your spots? I said, no, I'm really not, because people don't fish those spots. They're very frustrating. But neither here nor there. Let's talk about those sunken ships, because I saw in chat somebody, and I'll try to make this quick. I saw in chat somebody on the Missouri River said they don't have any sunken ships up by where they're at. If there's barge traffic on a river, there's usually a sunken barge somewhere
yep,
about
Yep.
every 20 or 30 miles, because they've been doing it for 100 years. And even on the Illinois River, I can find, and that's, they haven't had that kind of old barge traffic for a long time. Now, not all of them are epic spots. Some of them are kind of in the gar and carp water, and they're really no good. It's those ones that are off the ledge. They have 15, 20, 25 feet of water and decent sweeping current. Those are the ones that attract big flatheads. And if you're in blue cat water, they attract big blues. Now, they're not on maps. You have to find them. It took me years to find the 20 or so shipwrecks that I fish, from all the way from Wisconsin all the way down past St. Louis. Now, some of them are on maps, and sometimes, just like David was saying, sometimes you can talk with locals and say, hey, you know anything about any sunken ships in this area? And they may get you close. Yeah, I heard about in the 1930s there was this paddle wheeler that went down in the big 50-foot hole. And that's useful information. It can help you narrow some things down. I used to do it.
exactly.
I still do it.
Even boats, if it's not a big, huge barge,
Yeah,
a lot of
even
guys
a little
out there
boat.
with their pleasure boats and stuff,
Yep, yep,
and they sink them. They're never salvaged.
yep.
It still creates a break in that current and stuff, and those fish will still take that sunken boat, and they'll start using it for their habitat.
Yeah,
Uh,
and blues like it because it's a variable current and it's in what I call an obelisk in the water. Flatheads like it because they can get in it or under it. So that
yep,
creates overhead cover. Even in 30, 40 foot of water, they like overhead cover. They like it in 10 foot. They like it in 5 foot. They like it in 50 foot. They love having something over top of their head. They love having something to the side. And they love to be
Right.
able to trap bait fish against obstacles. That is one thing, if before I die, the rest of the people on YouTube will know that flatheads are not awesome at open water stuff. They do a lot of open water stuff, but give them the choice. You can actually
yep,
eliminate small flathead area by putting your bait specifically targeting something that's got a side to it, it's got a bottom to it, or it's got a top to it. It's
Right.
pretty darn amazing.
yep.
Here's a question for you, Epic, from
Yeah.
Hilljack. He wants to know if you have any pointers for subtle anglers in lakes.
Yes, I do. And the one thing about lakes is that we all know, those of us that have been fishing for years, know that locals have a huge and clear advantage over anybody else coming in for the first time fishing a lake, because locals know what's going on at what time. They know whether there's sunken trees or, like David fishes, a sunken road or a sunken bridge or anything like
Yep.
that. If you take the current out, then you've got depth and cover left. So depth and cover become king instead of current. So all you do is just take that first part off of that equation and then focus on cover and depth, and then you are going to be somewhere that the catfish are. Now, there, of course, just like with anything else, you're going to throw in a lot of extrapolated things such as thermocline. You're going to throw in high pressure, low pressure. You're going to throw in a little bit of current coming in here. You're going to throw in plankton bloom, and then you're going to factor in where bait fish are. In a river, I can eliminate the bait fish equation because the habitat of flatheads and blues intersect with bait fish all the time. It doesn't really have anything to do with bait because, and I can prove this, because bait fish, if I were to choose to follow where bait fish are on the river, I would be so off base on giant fish that it wouldn't even be close. Because there's all kinds of backwater areas that don't have current on a main river, like the Mississippi, it doesn't matter, the Des Moines, the Skunk, the Wapsie, the Illinois, any of that stuff, but there's not a big catfish one in it. Not one. There's a million bait fish here, but I can go fish it day after day, night after night, and I'm going to contact a few decent catfish, not a bunch.
Yeah.
But if I pay attention to where the flatheads and blues want to be, and throw the bait fish factor out and just realize that they want to be where they can be in safe deep water, as well as venture to medium and shallow water at the same time. So it's going to be a very diverse area anyway. So bait fish are naturally going to inhabit that. It's not one of those situations where, well, I found all the shad in the world, or I found all the buffalo in the world, or I found all the carp in the world, and then I found the catfish. That is just a circumstance. A lot of times, if you find bait fish, that somewhere that there's decent big flathead or big blue habitat coinciding with it. But it'll fool you too. It will lead you down the wrong road. I fished many times. I wish I had all that time back that I spent in those awesome looking waters with lots of bait fish, but it just didn't have the right equation to hold big catfish. I wish I had all that time back, because I spent years doing it, because I listened to people and I listened to magazines, I listened to all this stuff, and they just flat out either didn't know what they were talking about or lying to me.
Well, especially in a river. Yeah, in a river, that fish can sit in one spot because he knows in that current there will be bait fish coming by him.
Yes.
He can stay inside his comfort zone.
Yes. It's called homeostasis. And we all
it's just like, yep. It's just like when they're down in the fallen timber and stuff on the edge of the river, and they get back in that timber and stuff. Yep. That's their comfort zone. They know that they do not have to leave that. That's because it will come to them.
David, my next video is about exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. It is classic flathead pre-spawn location, basically on wood, and it will explain pretty much where flatheads are and how to contact them.
I have a question that I asked Dave earlier. I'm going to ask you the same thing.
Yeah. I heard this question, and it's not as simple. But yes.
For the beginners that's going to like a Mississippi River, Illinois, Ohio, or Tennessee or Illinois River, to fish those rivers, what would your advice be?
My advice is pretty much the same as I give everybody. The one thing that you want to do is, if the water's up, you want to fish medium current, and you want to kind of get out of the trash flow. Okay. People ask me this stuff all the time. So let's just say we're going to fish any of those major rivers. Let's just say the Ohio. If the water's, 10 or 20 feet up, like Roger, and you can tell by even watching his videos that he has the same mentality. He said, well, we're not going to, stick right with the main current. We're going to fish a little bit of that kind of medium style flow. And he's right. And Country Boy is right in saying, okay, let's talk to the locals and see what they say. But I've been around enough locals, especially on my river. They have no idea what they're doing. No idea. They know where to catch little fiddlers and stuff, but there's not that many local anglers where I'm at that even know big flatheads or blues the size that I catch even exist in the river. I mean, there's guys that have been 20 years fishing these rivers, and they meet me at the boat ramp and they say, "How do you do?" And I say, "Yeah, we did okay. We caught a couple of 50s and we caught some 40s and we caught, one like 70." They're like, 70 what? I'm like, blues or flatheads. They're like, there's actually fish that big, like we catch like 10 or 15 pounders. And a lot of times they don't believe it until you get your phone out and you show them the pictures. And it's like, oh my God, where are you catching these? How are you doing this? I've been fishing this my whole life. But generally speaking, if the water's low, go to the current. Channel edges are always a good bet. It doesn't matter if it's stem to stern. If you can fish a channel edge, if you can mark fish, you can generally catch them. If your river has wing dikes, tips to the middle, you can focus on those. And if the water's really low, go to the dam. I don't really love fishing dams, even though you guys have seen quite a few of my videos where we have had to fish dams. We try to fish downriver, the bite's just not going, and I just got to go to the current. That's the other thing. I did not realize this when I was younger. I did not realize that I would go to the Mississippi and the water was at 22 feet. And I'm trying to fish basically the bank sides where the current is a little bit less. I didn't realize that those big blues are still where they were when that water was only 14 foot. I didn't realize it at all. And that's why I was telling P City tonight, not P City, I was telling Palmetto tonight in his chat. I said, if you have eel grass building up on your lines, you need to get out of there, because it has never paid off to stay in the eelgrass zone when it's coming down river, because it's like a storm. Fish don't even have eyelids, and if there's grass just blowing on them all the time, they're not interested in eating. You got to get out of that grass line before you can actually get on some decent fish. And I don't care if it's 5 pounds or 50.
Well, even with all that grass, like you were talking in Palmetto, even with the live bait, that grass comes in there and covers it all up.
It does, and it'll actually in current, it'll actually raise it up off the bottom, and you won't even really know it. And I've fought with eelgrass my whole life, and I used to think I could overcome it by going to certain places and whatever, but you pretty much have to get out of the eelgrass. Or even
here's a question for both of you.
What's up?
Kelly Bullock wants to know, what about bank fishermen in those scenarios when water is low?
Okay, when the water's low, if you're fishing carp and gar water, that's what you're fishing. I mean, that's it. You got to hope for a fish to venture somewhere where he's from to come to you, and that is not great odds. So my advice is to get on Google Earth and find neck downs, find something you can get out on. If there's I literally have gotten out on wood piles when I used to not have a boat. Like, you get a big cottonwood coming out, and I know it's kind of dangerous. I'm not really telling anybody to do this, but I used to get out on big cottonwoods and fish straight line with the current, especially for flatheads and channel cats back in those days. Or even like with Kelly's situation, if the water's low, wade it. I used to wade below blowhead dams all the time, up to my neck, and hold my rod out of the water. And I realize I'm kind of nutty, but it's the difference between catching fish and not catching fish. And if you're driven like I was, you'll do it. If you're not, that's fine.
No, that's what I do, and everybody thinks I'm crazy for it.
Yes.
But a lot of the times I will wade out there, and I'm at least waist deep in the water, before I ever throw my rods out.
Yep.
Because I've got to hit that deeper channel. I've got to get in that little bit deeper water.
Yeah, when it's necessary.
Well, why are you catching fish and no one else is? And I'll have people fishing all around me. And it's just that simple because I'm willing to wade out there with them cottonmouths and get out there and take a chance. And you cannot force that fish to come to you. Sometimes you have to take that bait to the fish.
Yep.
And if they're in 8 foot of water and that's where them fish are traveling, you can fish 4 foot of water all day long.
All day long. Yep.
And you're playing the lottery. You're just hoping to get lucky on that fish.
Yep.
Move to where you know the fish are.
Yep.
And
so I got a good story to tell you. So when I was in college, my first year I spent at a community college. It was about 40 miles from my house. And I had a class in the morning and a class in the evening. And so I used to take my rods when I didn't have a boat, and I would drive back down to the Illinois River from college because I had a 4-hour deal. And I started fishing from shore near the McCluggage Bridge. And the McCluggage Bridge has a big, giant flat in front of it. You can see the channel markers out there, but I didn't really realize when I first started fishing it that it was so shallow out there until the water got low. Once the water got low, I realized by counting down on my stuff. So I just started walking out there. And it's 120 yards out there. And there's boats going down the main channel and throwing big waves and all this stuff. So eventually I got to where I was taking a lawn chair and sitting it out there. I mean, 100 yards from the bank. I'm like sitting in the middle of the river and hoping that a boat, well, I was on the non-channel side, but right in front of me, it went from 4 foot of water to 16 to 17 foot of water. And I tried and tried and tried before I started doing that to catch catfish. Once I got close enough to that main channel, I could catch them all day, every day, right in the main channel. And it was pretty crazy. And I had some boats come up and tell me, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm stuck to this shore, so there's no way I can cast out that far. So I'm coming out here. They're like, "Well, it's dangerous." I said, "Well, if somebody's going to drive over me," I said, "I'll swim out of the way."
Yeah.
But I was a lot younger then too.
All right. But here's a question I have for both of you.
Okay.
Locking dams, wood piles, wing dikes, and low water dams.
Yep.
How would you fish all of them?
You just asked about a 5-hour question, Avid.
I ain't trying to ask a 5-hour question, but
you did.
Just something that's been asked to me a lot of times. I didn't know how to answer it.
Every single one's a little bit different. You have to use your instincts and knowledge and what's going on. But let me give you the simplest true answer that I can give you. Simplest true answer is if you are in a boat, mark fish, and when you mark them, you anchor up and it doesn't matter what time of the day, because you cannot rely on going back to them.
Yeah.
So if I mark huge fish at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to anchor them and fish them. They may not bite, but I'm still, because I can locate them then. Because I may come back in the evening and they're not even there. Now, sometimes
even a couple of hours.
Sometimes I will mark them before that, and then I will fish them after dark because they are still there. But if I mark what I think is a 100-pound fish, I'm gonna throw them. I'm gonna throw on them during the day. I did that on the Epic Super Monster because we hadn't had a day bite at all in the entire summer except for that day. That was the only day there was a decent day bite, and it was Catfish Brothers, which was the anchor just before Epic Super Monster. So the 130 was the third fish that day. Literally, Garrett caught one, Connor caught one. We locked through. We put down. I marked that fish. We went up above them, and I threw to him. I clapped, and then the next fish that went down was that 130. And then it proceeded to be fish after fish after fish after fish. Well, the next weekend, we couldn't buy a bite during the day. So just don't get a preconceived notion that you can't catch them during the day or you have to fish at night or whatever. If you mark them, fish them. And, I really didn't have my favorite bait either because I was planning on getting my favorite bait that evening. But we had those suckers, and I said, yeah, we marked them, so we're going to fish them right now. And it paid off. And that's not the first time. I mean, that's happened hundreds of times. So, but it's also happened where I mark big fish during the day, and they peck, and they hem haw, and they do all that stuff. And it's, you got to go back and fish them at night. I mean, anybody that's been on the river enough, whether it's bank or boat, knows that happens. They'll be on fish, and you go, why didn't they bite? They'll tap it, they'll peck it, they'll pull down, but they won't take the whole bait in their mouth. So you got to go back after them.
Kelly Bullock says, Roger, I'm afraid to ask a local like Epic because he won't take me on a ride on the scary river.
Did he say I won't or I will?
You probably would.
Oh, I would. I would. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to get off here because I don't want to interrupt. I want to hear what David's got to say and what you've got to say. I'm going to be back in chat, listening and adding to the conversation. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how to land those big fish because everybody in here has got a shot at getting one of those on the line. And I don't want to, if I can help people not have that heartbreak that haunts them their whole life, that would be good.
They call it once in a lifetime.
My goal this year is a triple digit.
Well, Avid, you've got a good shot where you live.
They call it a fish of a lifetime for a reason.
That's right. That's right.
You're going to get one shot at that caliber of 100+ pound fish. You don't want to waste that one shot.
Yep. That's right. And so it's just little things. It's, dipping the rod when you have to. Sometimes, and what I want to say is when I grab the whole rod, when you guys watch me grab that whole rod, including the line, it's because I don't want that fish to run again. And I've already gauged whether that fish is well hooked or not really well hooked. And you can kind of tell by the fight. But that I'm not trying to tell anybody to do because that's just going to be experience. There's no way to explain that. But as far as leading that fish like a big dog, getting him underneath the boat and then working him up, that will save that. Matter of fact, on a lot of those big fish, if you don't do that, you're in for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Where I fish, you're in an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. And, I could land a fish like that knowing what I know now in 25 minutes.
Well, and a lot of times with them big fish, a lot of times when they don't feel you just horsing and that constant heavy pressure, you can keep pressure on them without trying to winch them in. A lot of times, once they don't feel that pressure, they will turn around and actually help you out. They will back towards you.
Yeah.
And little stuff like that makes a difference. A lot of experienced anglers, you'll see them. They already know in their mind when that fish gets close to that boat, it's going to take another run.
Some of them, there's nothing you can do. You can try to trick them. You can do whatever. They'll go left. They'll go right. They'll go down. They've done stripped off 3/4 of your spool, and you just can't get them to come to you. Those are the ones that you have to up anchor, or you just have to power them in. You got to muscle them in, or you got to chase them. And I have started carrying an anchor ball, and it's not really even an anchor ball. You know what it is? It's a freaking 5-gallon can of gas with a quick clip connect on it. So I just clip that to the end of my thing, and I can up anchor. And I knew I was going to have to do that because I started fishing, some of those epic spots when the water was even higher because I just amped up on my weights. I amped up on my baits. I amped up on everything because I wanted to spend more time there, and honestly, a lot of the spots that I fish are only fishable 10% of the year. And so I needed to increase that to about 20, 25, 30% of the year. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Love you, Champ. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to love listening to the rest of it.
You're very welcome.
Good night, everybody.
Here's a question for you, Dave. Does the moon phase really have an effect on how the bite?
In my experience, from my point of view, yes. Uh, a lot of the time, people don't realize, especially if you're messing with tidal water, the moon phase and the tide are closely related. A lot of times, the tide, what it's doing, will depend on the moon phase. But I know people say don't fish on a full moon. I've heard it before. But guys, I'm going to tell you, anytime you can get out and get on that water, it's a good time to go. Uh, don't rely so much on the barometric pressure, the moon phase. Uh, Guys are trying to put too much into it. Uh, Fish can be caught. They're going to eat. You just have to figure out what's going on, what conditions, and figure out where they're going to be. And the bite may be slow. You're not going to go out there and catch 50 fish a day every day.
No.
You know, be realistic and set realistic goals for yourself. Uh, Also, if you're new to fishing, fish waters that have a heavy catfish population. Don't go to waters where the catfish numbers are minimal, because what you're going to do is get down on yourself and you're like, why am I not catching fish? Why am I not catching fish? I'm doing something wrong. And you're going to put so much pressure on yourself that it's no longer fun. You're not out there fishing and enjoying yourself.
Well, let me iterate on that part a little bit. A lot of times, if you're out there fishing and you think you're on good waters that have catfish, look at the boat traffic. Look at the water traffic. Because if you have these pleasure boaters going up there and down the river at 40, 50 knots, it's not going to do you any good fishing. It's going to harass the fish a lot, but you want to be in a cove somewhere, where a mouth of a cove or a wing dike where you can fish, where the boats ain't going to come harass you too much, or a low water dam.
That's where exploring your bodies of water is really going to pay off. A lot of the areas that I fish, people never even fished them until they started watching me catch fish there. Uh, they didn't pay them any attention. Uh, when you find new waters that not everyone and their dog has not been out there fishing, uh, it's going to increase your production because the fish are not pressured. There's not people in there messing with them all the time. I mean,
No,
the fish are just like us guys. If every time you go in your living room, someone's poking and prodding on you and messing with you, you're going to quit going to your living room. Fish are the same way. Uh, so don't be afraid to explore different areas. One of my best flathead spots, most people will not fish because it has a lot of timber and it has huge boulders. And I'm talking like boulders the size of cars down in that water. And people
right.
are, they're not willing to sacrifice their tackle. You snag up there, and guys will go in there and try and fish it, and they'll throw out once. And when they go to reel in and they snag up and break off, they're like, man, I'm not fishing here, and they'll leave. But don't give up on areas like that.
No, those are the areas that will hold your monster cats.
Yeah.
Now,
And
how would you answer this one? I know we covered it earlier, but Thomas wasn't here when you answered it. He goes, uh, how does the high low pressures affect things? The high and low pressure.
when the pressure gets extremely high, I don't like really fishing because that high pressure, uh, it's going to turn the fish off. So you're going to have a spot in there where the fish don't bite. But don't rely so much on high pressure or low pressure with the barometric pressure. The barometric pressure is constantly changing. It'll change several times within a day. Uh, Everything, the fronts coming in, stuff like that, it affects that barometric pressure. So
Right.
Even if the pressure is high right now, 2 hours later it may not be. Uh, it doesn't mean you can't catch fish. Uh, don't be afraid to go out in high pressure or a low pressure. Uh, to me, I think when you had high pressure, and as soon as that pressure starts dropping, as soon as it starts on that decline, it it triggers them fish a lot of times, and they'll start feeding, and you'll have that bite window. And I know a lot of people, they like to fish it when it's stable. Well, when it's stable, you can still catch them, but the bite's not as intense. I notice when the pressure is going from high to low, I seem to have some of my best fishing as far as uh, how many fish I'm getting per hour, the bites.
Right. So sunny, cloudy, or windy?
Overcast.
I knew you was gonna come up with that one.
Overcast.
Overcast is to me has always been the best time for bites.
Overcast does really well, uh, depending on what time of the year. Now, if I'm in winter, I'm in the colder months. I want that sun out. I want it to start warming that water up and increasing it. In the spring and summer, if it's 80, 90 degrees, I want that overcast. Uh, a lot of times people go out, especially in the summer, and they're night fishing. Okay, the reason they do that is when you're fishing from the bank, especially during the hot time of the day, big fish is kind of like me. I'm a little bit on the chunky side. So when it's hot, not like to be out there and be as active. So at nighttime, when things start to cool off, the bigger fish and stuff will come up and start feeding. And if you have overcast the next day, it will prolong that bite. Because a lot of the times when the fish move up shallow and they're feeding at night, you'll catch them till about 10, maybe 11 o'clock once that sun gets high and it really heats up. And then they're going to pull out of that shallow water and they're going to start heading back to their deep holes. If you have the overcast, it will prolong that and it will give them a longer feeding pattern, a longer window to feed in because that water's not so hot. They're more comfortable. They're able to move around.
All right. Early morning, noontime, evening, or night fishing.
Early morning, I like uh, right before dark and nighttime. You can catch them in the middle of the day. I do it a lot of times, but for me, I'm more comfortable when the temperatures are cooler than I am when it's 105 degrees out there. Uh, you still can catch fish, but they're in different places. In the heat of the day, and you got triple digit temperatures, those fish are going to be in the deep holes. They're going to be where that water is cooler because it's more comfortable. Uh, think of it like this: when you're in your home, you set your thermostat to a comfortable level for you, whether it's 70 degrees, 68 degrees, 72 degrees. That's where you're comfortable at. These fish have that same thing. They have a temperature which they tolerate and they are comfortable at. And they will move from the shallow to the deep water accordingly to maintain that comfort level. Uh, you know, it's just like you being out there in 110-degree heat. If you're not comfortable, you're not enjoying it. The fish are the same way. They're going to move to where they are comfortable at.
I agree with that one. Me, I prefer the evening, early morning, and nighttime fishing.
Yeah.
That's just me though, because that's where I do best.
Yeah. But a lot of
So,
people think you can't catch during the day. You can
Well, you
catch
can catch them during the day,
if you're
but
fishing the spots where the fish are at. If you're
but
bank fishing and you're in shallow water, you're very limited. Uh, you know, if you're not getting in that deeper channels when it's 110, 115 degrees, uh, you're not going to catch them. You may luck into one here and there, and but it's not going to be consistent. You know,
but
everyone's this old saying: even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while.
right,
Don't make your fishing career as a blind squirrel. Uh,
no, but
you want to be
right
able
now
to
this
spot.
is the time of year where a cat fisherman can do good in the daytime because he got the pre-spawn for channel cats already. As soon as the channel cats go into bed, the flatheads will be coming up, getting into their pre-spawn and start feeding, and the blues will be right behind them.
See,
So this is the epic. This is what I consider an epic time for bank fishermen, boat fishermen, and beginners to get out there and start catching some of those
yeah.
lunkers. Because you can throw anywhere from a night crawler to a donkey bait like me, Epic, and you probably throw out there for the big
Yeah.
cats and land them.
Well, and down here, I'm so far south, the spawn is already in full effect here. So it has kind of almost put the brakes on the catfish bite. Uh, but you still can do things, guys. If you have a boat during the spawn and drifting weights, drifting and dragging baits is a great way to still catch fish during a spawn. Now, granted, you're not going to go out there and fill your boat full of fish, but you can still get on a bite. You can still catch fish by dragging baits. Uh, you know, here when it comes out and the fish are done spawning, uh, we'll have a very short period of time before we hit triple digit temperatures, and it will be time to night fish. And I love to night fish when it's cool in the summer because I don't get overheated as much. I'm not as hot. Uh,
I agree with that one.
yeah, Roger wants to fish it all. He don't care.
No, Roger, he's been doing good during the daytime,
Yep.
but then again, he's using his side imaging, down imaging, and public live scan all to mark fish.
Yeah. And see, that's the deal with bank fishermen. Bank fishermen don't have all the electronics.
No,
Guys,
bank
that
fishermen, we have to look at the bank. We have to read the contours. We have to look for the riprap with
know
water's run
what's
over
there.
riprap and all that stuff.
Yeah. Know what's there. You whether it's a lake or a river, you can read it by what you see most of the time on the bank.
Mm-hmm.
The chances are, if you got a steep drop off, a steep bank, when it hits that water, you're still going to have that steep drop off. Uh, when you throw your lines out, Epic made a good point earlier. When you cast your line out, pay attention to how much line it pulls off before it hits bottom. How long
Right.
it take for your weight to get bottom? And you may not have a fish finder and a depth finder, but you can tell what depth you're fishing in.
Now, as a bank fisherman, when I'm fishing the Kaskaskia and there's not a lot of coverage here, I'll go around bridges where the pylons are in the water and I fish around them. Because on the backside of them, you got catfish just sitting there waiting for bait to come to them.
Yep, I see. Looks like Thomas. He's said he's been fishing uh, quite a while, and they're having a
Uh,
hard time getting on the fish.
yeah, he says he's been fishing for the lake for 3 years. The first year, he caught a huge 10 to 15 pound. It's huge to him. The past few years, we can't get crap night or day. It's strange. What advice could you give to someone like that?
If you fish a spot, and when I say fish a spot, guys, I don't mean go out there, spend 30 minutes and say nothing's biting here on one day and just say the fish are not there. If you put in time on that spot and you fish it and you're consistently not catching anything there, move spots. Go to a different spot. Uh, Thomas, same thing. What is your fish population in that lake? What is your catfish numbers per acre of water? Stuff like that makes a huge difference. Guys, think of a jar. If there is one BB, yellow BB in that jar of water, it's going to be a lot easier to find that one bead in there. If you have 500 beads in that jar of water and only one yellow bead in that jar, it's going to take you time and it's going to take a lot longer to get to that yellow bead. Uh, Put yourself in a situation to be successful. Uh, know the water. Uh, just because there's water somewhere does not mean there are fish in it. Even your lakes and your river, you have a lot of areas that are referred to as dead zones. And
Right.
they're called that for a reason, guys. They're there, and you may luck onto a fish every once in a while traveling through there, but they're not going to be there in numbers. You're wasting your time. Try and get different areas and find something that works for you. I recently just did a video and put out on tying different rigs and stuff that help. Uh, you know, guys, gather information, watch these guys on YouTube, pay attention to what they're telling, and you can learn a lot. Uh, that's what we're here for, especially with my show that I do on Wednesday nights. It's not for entertainment, guys. It's educational. I want you to learn something from it. I I share all my spots. I share all my information, my knowledge. I tell you why I'm fishing spots, where I'm fishing at, and why I'm fishing that spot at that particular time. Because I want
Okay.
to be able to take that information and go out there and be successful and catch fish. Fins and Fines fishes some of the same water I do. And when I can watch him go in a live video and go fish one of the spots that I fished, where he got to watch me, and he's catching fish, that makes me feel good because that gives me a sense of accomplishment because I'm helping him get on fish. Uh, and that's what it's about. It's about educating people, uh,
Mm-hmm.
not just on the fishing tackle and techniques, but also CPR. Uh,
How how can we help a beginner cat fisherman catch cats that is just starting out fishing?
The main thing is the water. Fish where there are catfish. Uh, know what you're fishing for. If the catfish in your area and your body of water average 5 pounds, there's no need for you to go out there with a 10 odd hook and a 12-ounce weight. If you do not have current, if you do not have monster catfish in your waters, especially with the channel cat, because the channel cat can be very finicky and very delicate, downsize your tackle to match the fish you're chasing. The same thing with your rods. If you're catching the smaller fish, don't go out there with a super heavy rod that's like a broomstick because basically you're just cranking them and winding them in, just like someone cranks the winch on the front of their boat trailer to winch their boat on. It's going to take all the fun of it out. Uh, don't be afraid to have fun and don't be afraid to ask questions. Guys, anybody that has any questions, you can email me anytime at countryboycatfishing at gmail, or you can find me on Facebook under David Zimmerman. And I am more than happy to answer questions because that's the whole goal of my channel is I want to help you get on more fish.
Okay, here's the question, but I already know Epic's answer. I've already asked him this one. A bank fisherman that's using longer, heavy action rods to get out further. What's your thoughts on that?
If that's where you need to do to hit the deep water, because there are sometimes with a 7'6" rod, you're not going to get that distance. If you're using a 10 or a 12-foot rod, as long as it still has a good tip on it and it's not broomstick hard, uh, and it helps you in that casting range, go for it. Because there's a lot of times that extra distance will make the difference in you catching fish and not catching fish.
Okay, I'll give you an example. I use two 11-foot medium heavy action fast tip rods. I got a 15-foot heavy action with that fast tip rod, and I got an 18-foot, which is retired because it's an antique. And I throw 5-ounce weights on them, Carolina rig with a catfish rattle with that's a 28-inch leader on it.
Yeah.
I'm casting 200 to 300, about 200 yards out into heavy current, where I want to be for the big cats.
But that's where you need to be with your fish. Guys,
Right.
a lot of the times too, there's certain times of the year that you have to be in that deeper water. There's certain times of the year they're going to be up in the shallower water. Know where
Right.
your fish are at, because if them fish are in 4 foot of water and 4 foot of water is 30 yards from the bank, and you're throwing this as far as you can and as hard as you can, and you're casting out to 15 and 20 foot of water, you've casted beyond the fish. So that that's all going to depend on where the fish are at. What water depth do you need to hit? How far is it out there to that channel that you've got to hit? Because there's time, guys, if you got a 7 foot rod, a 7'6" rod, and you need to throw 170 yards, I don't care if you back up and take a running start at it,
You're not going to hit it.
you're not going to hit it. So know what you got to have for your specific fishing scenario, because it changes, and it changes day to day and season to season.
You see, like with me on the Mississippi, the one spot I like to fish a lot, there's a ledge there at maybe 150, 175 yards. I like to get one on the ledge. Then I like to put one past the ledge. Then I like to
Yep.
put one farther out beyond the ledge
Well,
to
and
see what's there.
that's how you find the fish. If you can fish with 2 rods, 3 rods, 4 rods, don't stick them all in the exact same depth in the exact same spot.
Right, you distance them.
Spread them out and figure out what depth and where the fish are traveling at. If you're catching fish on one rod, and if you catch 3 fish all on the exact same rod in the exact same place, that's telling you they're in that spot for a reason. So they're traveling that depth of water, or there's structure and cover under there. There's something there that's holding those fish. So that's the stuff you got to try and figure out.
What do you mean by that, Roger? Way too long. But that's how I fish the Mississippi because since I'm a bank fisherman, I do things differently. I'm not like some bank fisherman that just casts out 10, 15, 20 feet from the bank looking for the cats because I know the dinks are going to be up there closer to the bank. I'm looking for the monsters.
Yep.
I'm looking for the big boys because that's what I'm hooked into. I've already hooked into an 83-pound blue 2 years before I started YouTube.
Yep. Well, see,
And now I want to get something bigger.
that's something you got to watch too, guys, because lakes, creeks, and rivers at certain times of the year, you will catch them big fish cruising right up against the bank in the shallower water. And do not always think you got to be in 40 and 50 foot of water. Sometimes you will catch them in 3 to 4 foot of water. I've seen fish so shallow at times that their dorsal fin was sticking up out of the water, and you could literally watch them swim.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can drop a live bait right in front of them.
Yep. But don't Don't get a mindset that you have to fish one spot at a certain time. Try it out at different times. Uh, wintering holes.
Right.
If you're in early spring, when them fish come out of their wintering holes and they start heading up shallow and they're getting ready to spawn, don't sit out there and keep fishing them wintering holes. Them fish have moved out of there. Uh, a lot of people, a lot of problem I see with people with boats and fish finders. If they mark a fish, they don't even know what kind of fish it is. They will sit on that spot all day long and fish trying to catch that one fish. There are fish that you will mark that are not actively feeding. Uh, you've got to find the actively feeding fish. So,
Now, a lot of people say that you put a timer on how long you leave your bait out there before you cast to a new spot or recast or find another location. What's your thoughts?
I hear people say that, but on the bank, sometimes you're limited. You cannot move. You're stuck in one area. Uh, that may be the only spot you can get to. I have literally had baits that have sat in the same place for 2.5 to 3 hours with nothing touching them, and then had a 30 or a 40-pound catfish come by and snatch it. Uh, Me, I like to catch fish. When I go fishing, I just don't like to sit there and stare at the rods. I want to see some action. I don't
Right,
care. I don't care if they're 4-pound fish as long as there's action.
right,
And I enjoy the fight. But uh, there are guys that move around a lot. And sometimes by moving guys, you could be in the right spot just at the wrong time. Those fish could be there and they're not actively feeding. And when you move, a lot of times you're moving and you're jumping spots and you don't end up getting on fish all day because all you've done is jump from spot to spot.
right,
Wintertime. Wintertime, the bite is going to be slow. That's
right.
You really have to go out there, set up camp. If you know that's a wintering hole, those fish are there, you're going to have to set up camp and fish it hard.
Mm-hmm. Now, coves and backwaters and mouth. No, let me rephrase that. You got tributaries with it, like with the Missouri, the Mississippi, and the big creek runs into it.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on that? I know my thoughts. That would be a good, great catfish hole right there.
Yeah. Anywhere I'm running and you've got smaller tributaries running into a larger body of water, if there are deep shallow channels there, the creek channels, and you also have the shallow flats around it, ledges, drops offs, uh, if you've got the habitat that the fish are looking for, fish it. Now, if it's a small little backwater creek that comes in and dries up and only has water certain times of the year that runs in there, and it's 2 foot deep there, it's not going to be a prime spot. But when the water starts running in and you've got water coming in, that fresh water a lot of times attracts the fish. Uh, so, but just because there's a small tributary coming into that main body of water does not mean it's productive. Uh,
No,
Find out what depth it is. Does it have constant moving current? Is it constantly flowing in there? A lot of your slower creeks or inlets like that dump into a main body of water, if their current is slower than the flow of the river and the main body that they're dumping into, a lot of times in the spring when the fish spawn, they will pull up in them. They will use them for spawning grounds. So
where
just
the creek in the Missouri I'm talking about when it flows into the Mississippi. the creek is a real heavy flowing creek,
Yep.
just like the Mississippi. So it makes this big confluence right there where like Mississippi comes in here. I mean, the Mississippi's going this way. The Missouri comes in here, and this creek comes in this way, causing this uh,
Massive hole.
massive hole in the center of the river
Yep.
and riprap all the way around it.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got a deep hole like that where think of it, guys, it's just like three intersections. You got three roads coming together and they're all meeting in that one intersection. Where is all the traffic going to get bound up at in that intersection? Especially if you have timber and rock or riprap, anything like that that's going to add to hold those fish there. Uh, there's going to be fish there. They can sit there with that current bringing to them and just sit there and feed. Those fish do not have to leave that hole. They do not have to leave that spot because all the food they want is coming to them.
Yeah, it's coming to them from that creek, from Missouri, and whatever's coming in that turmoil water, getting beat up on the rocks, is coming down
Yeah.
in that hole.
Yeah.
They can eat whatever they want.
Stuff like that makes a great ambush spot. Uh, and a lot of people don't understand this either. At times, guys, know where the fish live. There are areas where the fish are going to live, and then there are travel corridors where the fish are going to travel going from one spot to another. Uh, a lot of times in travel corridors, you'll catch active feeding fish coming out because that's why they're traveling.
I like how Creole put it. It's an intersection with a bus stop.
Yep.
There's another good man. He fishes the Mississippi down in Louisiana,
Yeah.
and he pulls out some monsters.
Yep. Creole is probably the closest person to me, and it's still several hours for me to drive down there. But I want to get out and get with Creole and go fishing with him sometime. And Creole is a blast. I love watching him.
Oh, me and you both. I love watching him. I like watching Epic's videos. I just watched his new one where he went up on a crazy river after channel cats. I watched every video that he's had on Epic, and I'm still trying to go through everybody else's channels and watch all of theirs.
Yeah, I even watched it when he went out and he was snagging them Asian carp. Uh, you know, I watched him do that. He had a blast, and I mean, he had bait. He was.
Yeah,
I mean, how can you get better than that? He was spending time on the water. He was catching fish, and he was catching bait.
yeah,
It, it was a blast to watch. And I'm the type of guy when I look at stuff, uh, I'm trying to improve my skills as well. Uh, so if I watch a guy out there uh, catching bluegill, I'll watch him catch them bluegill because I'm trying to learn something.
right,
Because if you're going to be a successful cat fisherman, you better be successful at catching bait.
right. Even if,
You're
if
going to need
even
it.
if you're catching bullheads to use to catch for flatheads, you got to know where to find your bullheads to get them.
Yep.
But me, I like using live bluegill to cut that much off the tail of the meat
Yep.
before they tail and just leave them live. Put a double hook rig on them, cast them out there and let them swim around because those flatheads will eat them. Those blues will come up and slam those bluegills.
I got
Live.
lucky. Uh, my wife, I can take her out and get her a box of worms, and I just rig her up with the cork and her rod, and she will sit there and catch bluegills for me so that I've got fresh bluegills for catfish bait. She can sit there all day as long as them fish are biting and have a blast. And I know I'm going to get to use them for catfish bait, so I'm having just as much fun as she is. Hey there, Kevin.
Yeah, because if you get people out there fishing
Yep.
and they're enjoying it, it's amazing. is like the time I took a veteran out fishing with me on the Mississippi. He found a spot. He went back there and fished the same spot a couple weeks ago with me, and he caught his personal best out of there.
Yep.
He caught a 43-pound blue.
Young kids, guys, don't be afraid to take kids out there.
Exactly.
I took my kids, I took all my nieces and nephews. I took people that I didn't even know I met in Walmart or something. I will take them out and take them fishing. Uh, you never know what an impact that's going to have on a young person's life. If you can introduce them to fishing and get them in the outdoors, whether it be fishing, hunting, or whatever, you may give that young adult, that child, a passion for the outdoors that may steer them down the right track and keep them out of trouble as they get older.
Here's a challenge I want to put out in the catfish community. Let's. It's a two-part challenge. Take vets fishing, get them into fishing, get to talking with them, and get children out there on the banks with you to fish with you.
Yep. Yep. There's Creole. Creole's exactly right. Rogers kids tournament's just around the corner.
Exactly. I had a last meet and greet. We had our first kids rodeo roundup fishing tournament, and that was a blast watching kids just bring in whatever species of fish they could catch.
Oh yeah, I have a blast. Uh, you can watch them young kids or people that's never caught a fish before, and when they start catching them fish and they get on them, it's so exciting. And I'm the type of person, if we're out fishing and you catch a fish, man, I'm probably going to be more excited than you are.
I'm trying to get the video for the kids fishing video uploaded. I'm gonna have to delete it and re-upload it because it didn't upload right.
Yep.
And little Miss Sophie,
Yes.
she was catching fish left and right and naming them
Yeah.
like they're. I mean, she's going to town.
And that's so fun to watch. Even you'll have more fun watching them, and it's regardless of age. Anyone that gets into it and starts fishing, and they have that passion and that drive and that excitement. I don't care if they're 2 years old or if they're 40 years old. It
All
is
those
fast to watch them catch fish.
right, even the kids that weren't catching fish, it was amazing seeing them out there fishing.
Yep.
They're not on their electronics. They're not at home watching TV. They're out there fishing with their mom and dad. They're enjoying
Yep.
themselves.
Yep.
That's what it's about.
It can be work. Like I went out there, and at one time I was the only adult out there, and I had 5 kids fishing. And
That's work.
man, they wore me out. And I actually took them crappie fishing, and we found these rocks, and we were out there to catch the crappie. Well, the channel cat had moved up into these rocks, and
Oh man,
they were catching 4 and 5 pound channel cat, and they were catching them on minnows as quick as they could get their hook in the water. And I would be trying to take one fish off the hook, and another kid already had a fish on, and we did hours. Well, I finally get them all loaded up and get everyone back home. And when I got home, let me tell you, my tail was dragging. I was wore out. I never even got a rod in the water that whole day. I never fished one time. All I
that's one thing I would say to someone if they're going to take kids fishing. You leave the adults leave your rods at home and
Yep,
enjoy the time with the kids because you'll probably never ever get that time again.
yep. And
Especially if you have 5 or 6 kids that catching
they
fish and they would come back and do it again.
yet they had the time of their life. It whooped me, but they had a ball. And those are memories that I've shared with them. When my life on this earth is over and God calls me home, those young kids will still have that memory. You know, that's what it's all about. It leave a legacy, create memories, leave something behind. Try and leave it better than it was when you got there, and leave something behind for others.
I agree with that because if, as a catfish community, we take care of each other.
Yep.
Let's. I know Patriot James. He has his outreach for the veterans,
Yes.
and Roger's starting his kids tournament. But if we all do our part and start bringing kids into the catfish community, more veterans into the catfish community, and getting them hooked on fishing for cats, whether it's
Yep.
5 pounds, 10 pounds, 50 pounds, or whatever. Let's get them hooked on it. Let's get them in our community where they can grow, have someone to talk to, and get the help.
Yep. Especially with the youth, because you don't know who's the next senator, who's the next
No,
representative. You don't know with these youngsters who's going to be in a position to actually do something to help the catfish, to start protecting that species. So never be afraid to take someone out. A,
no,
a lot of the things that are going on with the catfish is because people do not have the knowledge. They do not even understand what's at stake, what kind of drastic repercussions their actions have. They just don't know. So we've got to get that knowledge out there and get it shared out so that people are more educated on the subject.
right. Invite families, invite the veterans. No matter how many invites you put out there, keep inviting them out there to go fishing with you because you
Yep.
never know when someone's going to say yes and show up there in the bank and want
Yep.
you to teach them what you know about fishing
Yep.
and help them hook under a big cat. You never
Yep.
know. But leave that door open.
Let's see the comments, Brad and Creole.
Palmetto's trying to get Creole to send him some bait, some
Yeah.
skipjack. And that's been going on for a long time. But I like what Paula says: research, research, research.
Yep. A little bit of knowledge goes a long way, guys.
It does. Like Paula, she before she goes out on her tournaments, she researches those lakes where that she hasn't been on before. She goes through the water temps, the contours, the maps,
Yep.
everything.
Yep. Well, and the more information we get out there for people, the more they understand, the more of a movement we can have to start protecting these catfish. And it's something that's got to be done. It's a slow process, but that doesn't mean it cannot be accomplished.
No, it can be accomplished. We just have to be selective harvest for those that do eat the fish they catch. I
Yep.
I strongly I would suggest a selective harvest and not just keep everything you catch and just leave what leave whatever dies that you have in your stringer and is dead, leave it on the
Yep.
bank, take it home and clean it, eat it.
Yep.
Don't
It's an
just leave it on the
expendable
bank.
resource. It is an expendable resource, guys. Don't take more than you need. Don't abuse the resource. Uh,
What gets my goat a lot of the times is I see a lot of people out there catching these big gar, which actually helps take care of the Asian population and the silver crop population,
yeah.
leaving them on the bank to die. And that ain't helping our population with the Asian carp and the big head carp. When you catch 10 to 20 uh, gar, whether the long nosed gars, a short nosed gar, or whatever, don't leave them on the bank. Put them back in the water.
Well, in the areas that have carp in it, I don't have Asian carp here, but I've watched videos of people that do. And them Asian carp, when they come in with force.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking over and devastating water systems and rivers. And you need a predator out there for those. Uh, if you don't control things, they will get out of control.
Right.
Part of it. Uh, I'm lucky enough that I don't have the Asian carp. Uh, Epic up in his area, that scary river that he likes to fish and stuff. The Asian carp have decimated the shad population up there. So there has to be a common balance, guys.
Apache, I would, but this is an interview with Country Boy. But on off nights, I will have an open mic where we'll let people up here in open chat.
There's Creole. I'm taking the family out to do a little scouting on the Mississippi tomorrow. Check out new territory, map some new spots. That's a great idea, Creole.
That's always a good idea, whether you're fishing from the boat or the bank.
Yeah,
You can always cover new spots by driving down like a river road or a back road that's going down by river.
yeah.
If you're a bank fisherman, get out and walk it. Find open spots. See what is
Especially bank fishing.
right. You cover ground to find spots on the bank that are public where you can get into the fish. And if it's private, go to the landowner and see if he'll let you enter the fish, but be respectful and pick up your trash and take it out and help him
Yeah,
around his property if
yeah,
he needs help.
yeah. Uh, that's a big problem. Don't just get tunnel vision. Don't fish one certain spot all the time because there's not always going to be fish there. The more spots you can find fishing from the bank, the more successful you're going to be. Because if they're not in one area, you can move. Also, if you only know one spot to fish, and say you show up to that body of water and somebody's already fishing there, what do you do? Do you just go home and give up? That's where knowledge and having different spots pays off because if you have a spot that's similar to the one you were fishing, you can still find fish in other places. Go out, try different things, try different areas. Don't be afraid to explore and experiment. Uh, don't be afraid to fish water that no one else fishes. Uh, Here in Oklahoma, there's a lot of little rivers uh, that come off of Red River, little creeks, tributaries. Uh, it's my goal. I want to start hitting some of these smaller rivers and tributaries where they come up off of Red River and they made lakes and stuff on them. I want to try and fish some of them smaller rivers because if there's not a heavy fishing population, if people do not fish them frequently, uh, there's no telling what may be lurking in those little backwater rivers.
Exactly. Because those backwater rivers and lakes and backwater coves and eddies,
Yep,
that's where a lot of fish like to go in the summertime that have bait fish to eat and feed, to spawn,
yep.
whatever. They follow the bait fish. So during the mornings, evenings, and when they're hungry, they'll follow the bait fish back to those coves and backwater eddies and creeks to eat.
As that water is warming up, there's a shallow water cove where two creeks feed this body of water that I fish come into this lake. And there's a sunken roadbed. A lot of people don't know it's there. The roadbed is still there. The old concrete bridge is still on that road underwater. And when them fish come into them shallow flats to spawn and stuff, you can go over there right now, and I guarantee you there's a flathead laying up under that old concrete bridge.
Oh yeah, it's like on Ren Lake. They have a lot of underground structures there, like underground bridges, underground railroad bridges, underground houses, underwater, all that stuff that's underwater that can hold big cats.
Railroad
And
bridges are one of my favorite because the railroad bridges have been there so long. Uh, them fish have been using that same railroad bridge for years and years and years. And I love to fish the old railroad bridges.
A lot of bank fishermen, if I see where there's an old bridge or railroad thing coming from that's still underwater, but it's close to the bank where I can hit it, I'll take my big rods out there and cast out there as far as I can to get around them with
Yep.
live baits and big cut baits.
Yep.
And I'll use a heavy leader line like Epic does
Yep.
because I want those big cats out of there.
Yep. Like on my rods with my 7,000s, I'm using 40-pound main line and I'm using 60-pound leader line. I don't have any problem with it. I never have. I use the Berkeley Big Game Mono. I've always had good luck with it. I don't use braid because a lot of the areas that I fish, 90% of it has rocks. It has stumps.
Right.
It will cut that braid. Braid does not survive well there. So I use mono. Uh, you know,
I
got
use I use braid, but I use like a Cajun line that's really super strong.
yeah,
I do anywhere from 18 to 30 inches of leader with a bait on it, and I get around those holes and I just cast out there and pray for the best.
yeah. And guys, don't be afraid if you've got a YouTube channel and you've got viewers that are new to your channel and stuff, and they're new to fishing. Don't be afraid to take the time and explain the tackle and the rigs to them and make sure they understand it. Uh, this last video I did, that's all it was about. I showed them different knots that I tie, where I tie the knots at. Uh, you know, I had always used the no knot snail. Well, here a while back, I was watching Roger with Muskrat Adventures, and he was showing the Doc Lang snail. So now I started using that Doc Lang snail some, and I love it. And
I don't know what a Doc Langston is.
uh, it's a different type of snail, but with the reverse or the no knot snail, if you give it slack, how sometimes the line will let loose. The Doc Lang snail, if you look at it, watch that video and watch me tie it. Once you cinch that sucker down, it's not going anywhere. If you want to get that Doc Lang snail off your hook, take a knife and cut it off. You're going to have to cut it. I don't care if you cut the end of the line and stick it back through the eye of the hook. That sucker is not coming loose.
Try explaining a new tackle to an old timer. Do what Muskrat
Yeah.
says.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Roger.
Well, and tackle has come a long way. Instead of just the peg floats and stuff, you got the demon dragon style rigs, spooks and stuff. Uh, Uncle Lou put some out. Uncle Lou's, you've got a lot of different hooks companies,
Right.
sinkers, line, catfish specific rods. They're trying to get catfish specific reels now.
You see, I make my own catfish rattles for the rivers.
Yeah.
And I use a pinch floats for lakes that have big cats in them.
Yep. It comes along. It's catfishing tackle and the things that are out there have come a long way. Some of them, guys, they're not going to do you any good. If you're fishing a river with no current, unless you're fishing live bait, you can put all the rattles on there you want. But once you cast that out and that thing hits bottom, them rattles are just sitting there. You've got to have current or live bait, some
Right.
type to make those rattles work.
But see, if I'm doing a catfish rattle in a lake, and I know there's big cats in there, I'm going to have live bait on there.
Yep.
Because that's the only way this catfish rattle is going to work. Is you hook a bluegill in there through the sinuses on that live rattle, and he's out there swimming around.
Yep.
He's making that noise. He's causing that flash to attract those fish.
Yep. Well,
go ahead.
guys that use big bait and they're using the Demon Dragon style floats or the 3-inch cigar floats, guys, you need to do your research on them and figure out how much weight they float. Now, if you're in a river that's got current and stuff, your bait is going to have some buoyancy to it. So it's going to add to the amount that that peg float can support or
Mm-hmm.
that demon dragon. But if you're in a calm body of water, a lake that has no current, uh, if you're using giant baits and that peg float that you're working or got tied on there only supports a half ounce of weight, it's not going to keep that bait up off the bottom. You're going to have to go to something bigger. Uh, and you know, it's crazy. I watched the comparisons on them, and that little 2.5-inch oval peg float supports more weight than the Demon Dragons and the 3-inch
Mm-hmm.
floats. So
But
that
I will say this: if you're fishing in heavy current, do not use catfish rattles or peg floats or demon dragons because they will not stay up.
yeah,
A heavy current will lay them flat on the ground every time.
yeah, yeah.
I've
That's what Creole
I've
just
learned that one from practice.
and yeah, strong currents will pin them down. Uh, you know, the Santee rig, guys, if you're fishing places that have a lot of small rocks and stuff on the bottom or down stumps, you got tree limbs and debris laying on the bottom. Uh, when you Santee rig it, that float keeps that hook up off the bottom, and it does reduce the amount of times you get snagged up reeling in. Uh, it makes a big difference, and I tried that. Uh, just like bank fishing guys, don't be afraid to buy the drifting weights. Jimmy with Fishing and Gear, Santee drifters, I bought drifting weights from him. Some of the places that I flathead fish have a lot of rocks, which have crevices and stuff in them, cracks, and then flathead and the big blues call that home. And if you throw out there with just a traditional no roll sinker, an egg sinker, or something like that, and you reel in, you're going to get snagged up and you're going to break off. But with that dragon style weight and you Santee Cooper rig it, it will hold that bait up. And that Santee drifting weight, when it hits that rock or that stump, it will come over. It's flexible. It will give, and they also have a breakaway swivel on them, to where if
Right.
it does get snagged up, you can break it off, and all you lose is your sinker. You still got your leader, you still got your hook, you still got your float. All that is still there. Uh, so it's a great tool to have.
Apache Adventures wants to know: does leader length actually make a difference? Some say 18 inches, some say 10 inches.
Apache, I'll tell you what I do. Leader length is usually 18 to 24 inches on cut bait, but on live bait, I like a longer leader because it gives that bait more space to move around. It allows him to be more active, to create more motion. Uh, if the fish are pecking at the bait and they're very finicky and they will not run with the bait very long, sometimes you can shorten your leader length and it will help increase the hookup, because that if that fish is only running, you know, 12 inches and you got a 2 foot leader on there, if he does not reach the end of that leader, he's not going to load that rod tip up. So if you shorten that leader, sometimes it does help, but it all depends on the bait you're using and the conditions.
I will never use a 10-inch leader on live bait or cut bait because that puts it way too close to your sinkers and everything else, and they'll tangle up way too quickly. A
Incur
longer leader will give, even though it might tangle up a little bit, twist around a little bit, you still got that extra length for the bait in the live bait to get out there.
well, if you got a float on it, your leader length helps determine how far off the bottom you are.
Right.
But in lakes where there's no current, I have used shorter leaders uh, with no problems. Uh, but it's just because I'm fishing cut bait or something like that, night crawlers. Uh, but with live bait, I like a longer leader. Yeah,
Yeah, like Roger says, longer means more natural presentation, and He also added that he goes anywhere from 1 foot to 7 foot leaders.
yep. Uh, guys, you got to do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I
Es-
I I would say
Especially,
even though if you're comfortable with a short leader, 10 to 12 inches, try an 18-inch leader, try a 20-inch leader out
yep.
with cut bait and live bait. See how that might work out for you.
Well, and sometimes the
It might
fish,
end up giving you better results.
yeah, the fish are real finicky. Uh, Channel cat are notorious for it. They will bite that hook, and when they start to move it, as soon as they feel resistance, they'll drop that sucker.
That's why I like using a
If
sinker
you
slide
use
rig,
if
because
you
that way
use
they
a
can pull on that hook and that line will slide through that sinker until
yeah
there's tension on it. And by the time there's tension on it, it's too late.
yeah,
Because
especially
they
if
got that mouth
longer
closed and the sinker comes up off the bottom and it takes that hook and pulls right back in the corner of the mouth
yeah.
along with the rod.
If you use a longer leader, it gives that fish more room to move before he feels that tension.
Right. And like you were saying, it gives you more room to move and gives you more time to get that bait and that hook in his mouth to where when he hits that tension, that hook, that circle hook, is going to slide right back in the corner of the mouth and just nail him.
Yep. And
And
flathead
you'll get a good hook set.
flatheads can bite so finicky at times that you need that extra line. And if you don't have it on your leader, you're going to have to feed that flathead line or leave your clicker open and allow him enough time to get that bait situated in his mouth good and make a good run with it. I cannot tell you how many flatheads are lost because people try to kick the reel in gear too soon. They don't give him time to get it situated. Uh,
That
just
was my next question, but thanks for getting into it.
yet, just because that clicker starts clicking does not mean that fish is gone. Give that flathead time to get that bait situated and get down there. With that circle hook, it pulls them hooks out. You don't gut hook fish with them as often. You know, there's always going to be that freak chance that something happens, but give that fish time. Uh,
Brad even agrees with you saying that flatheads drop bait faster than they pick it up.
yep. Uh, I've actually watched fish and seen them where you could put bait down there and you could watch them hit it and spit it, hit it and spit it. As soon as they feel tension, they'll turn loose of that sucker. And, it's just like the channel cats. That's why sometimes when that channel cat is pecking and pecking and pecking, you can feed that fish line, give him some slack, feed him that line, and he'll finally get the confidence and make a run, and you can get hooked up on that fish.
Georgia fishermen, I will say yes for live baits for flatheads because that puts the bait up above the flathead where he's looking up and he can see it. And
Yep,
also for the blues, I'll say yes because it puts it in the zone where they can swim right up to it and take a bite out of it, whether it's live bait or cut bait.
yep.
What do you think,
I
Country?
I love the Santee rig with live bait. I still do fish it in some areas, Carolina rig, but with Carolina rig, guys, what you got to remember when you throw it out there on bottom, and your sinker's laying right on bottom, if there's any kind of rock or trash for that bluegill or whatever live bait you're using to hide in, that's what he's going to do. He's trying to survive down there on the end of that hook. Uh, he's going to look for a spot to hide. Uh, with that float, when it's up off the bottom Santee rig, it keeps that bait more active because he cannot just duck behind a rock or under some weeds and hide. He's not protected. He's not comfortable. So he's going to stay more active. And that movement of that fish sends out that vibration. And that's what's going to
Right.
protect your fish.
He's going to fight to get in the cover, which is going to
Yeah.
make that Santee rig and that peg float rattle.
Yeah.
And it's going to attract more of the predator fish like the blues, the flatheads, and possibly a striper to come up and hit it.
Yep.
Those big cats will come to noise.
Yep. One thing, guys, too, if you're getting into the Santee rigs, I will tell you this. If you fish really shallow water, say 1 to 4 foot, depending on your leader length and what float you got on there, sometimes it does float your cork to the top, or it will actually help lift your weight off a bottom. So sometimes you might have to go with a heavier weight to keep it stuck hard to the bottom.
Right.
In deeper water, it doesn't seem to affect it that much, but in really shallow water, it creates more buoyancy and it'll start to float your no roll sinker up off the bottom a little bit. I have noticed that.
I've learned one sinker I like using the most on the Mississippi and the Kaskaskia. Unless I'm in if I'm in rocky areas, I'll take a no roll flat sinker and use it as a Kentucky rig.
Yep.
But if I'm not in those areas and I'm in muddy areas, I take a pyramid sinker, anywhere from 4 to 8 ounces, and put it out there. Cast it out there and let it drop and hit that mud, because when it hits that mud, that point will stick in the mud and hold it.
Yep.
And it works great.
Yep.
Until that cat picks up that tension and he pops that sinker out of the mud.
Well, a lot of times people try and use the heaviest weight they can to make it stick on bottom. But as long as it holds bottom, guys, you don't want to get it so heavy that when that fish goes to run with it, it's immovable. He feels that weight, he feels that tension.
Right.
Because a lot of times, even if a fish hits it and he knocks your sinker off bottom and it moves a little bit, he sees that as that bait is trying to get away from him. And a lot of times when he knocks that sinker off bottom, it will trigger him and he will smash it.
Mm-hmm. I've used a 11-inch sucker as a live bait once with a double hook rig.
Yep.
That thing got hammered 3 or 4 times, but they missed both hooks because they short bit.
Yep.
And they didn't have that stinger hook far enough back.
Yep.
If I'd have had that stinger hook maybe 3/4 of an inch off the tail, I'd have had him.
Yep.
But you just live and learn. But I like stinger rigs on bigger baits because you got cats, your big blues, your big flatheads like come up be finicky at times into a short bite.
Yep.
And if you got that stinger rig set up right for a stinger bite, he's going to get hooked.
Yep.
But if you shorten it too short for a stinger rig, you ain't going to catch him.
Yep. Evan, I'll be right back. I got to let my wife's dog out. She's
All right.
The mean look. Okay.
Hey, Trio, how you doing tonight, bud? How you doing, Apache? Welcome. Bottom Peters. Jeremy Allen, welcome. If y'all new in here, please hit the subscribe button, the bell notification, and the thumbs up. We will have more great shows like this coming up. Next week we'll have Brad Caudell on the show, and I'm thinking about having a panel up after Brad Caudell with a few of the big catfish. I mean, few of the catfishermen in here, like Creole, me, Country Boy, and a few others. If I can get them on here and answer your guys' questions. So let me know if you're interested. Hit me up on Messenger if you're going to be part of the panel. You're more than welcome, Brad. And thank you, Epic, for coming up here tonight. This has been an awesome show tonight with Country Boy Catfishing. If you have any questions, please post it in chat with question marks so we can get answers out to Dan or Dave. What is your name, Dave?
David.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Yeah.
to call you Dan.
That's all right. I've been called a lot worse.
Now, you do fish from a boat as well, don't you?
I have. I've got to get another boat. My wife wants me to get another boat, but I have got to where I bank fish so much. I love my bank fishing, but
No, I know you love bank fishing,
but
and
there
I know
are times.
your wife wants to get another boat.
Mhm.
But what have you learned the differences between bank fishing and boat fishing that you could use together on the bank?
All right. With the boat, you've got more mobility. You can move a lot easier. At times, that will help you, and at times, that will hurt you because a lot of people pull up and they'll fish a spot 30 minutes and not catch anything, and they'll pull off and they'll go somewhere else. Well, a lot of the time, the fish are just moving into that area. They did not give it enough time. They were there at the wrong time. Uh, Stuff like that plays into a factor. I think bank fishing, when it's not as easy to move, it teaches you to be more patient. It also makes you plan more about your fishing trip because you know when you go to this spot, that's where you're going to be. You have to get it done in that spot that you're in because you may not be able to get another spot. With the boat, you're like, man, I can put in here if the fish aren't here. I can run across the lake and go over here or run up and down river and back and forth. Uh, you have more accessibility with the boat. Uh, there are times, especially like during the heat of the day, uh, or winter time when they're going to the deep holes, that you need a boat to get to those deep holes on certain bodies of water. You're not going to be able to do it from the bank. So there are pros and cons to both of them. Uh,
Yeah,
me,
but
like,
like
I
Roger
like,
said one time when he was taking Matt Carden on his boat
yeah,
fishing, he was showing him new. He was showing him the contours of the where bank fishermen could reach out there with the rods and everything.
yeah,
Where there was fish that's marked that he could mark on his phone, new spots that he could fish and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. A lot of the places it make you don't have access to them. You can
No,
you can look on Navionics. You can find a great spot, a big scour hole, something like that. Uh, but if you can't get to it, it's not going to do you any good. Uh, that's where the boat comes in handy. You can access a lot of areas from the boat that you may not even be able to get access to from the bank.
right. Google Earth is also good about that for helping you find those spots.
Yes.
And there's a an app on Google Play or whatever those other download sites that you come to that you can find where the property owners are, who owns that property on the river, stuff like that. whether it's public property, private property, or state park that you can go fishing
Yep.
at.
See down here, most all your rivers and stuff, all the access to it's going to be private property. Uh, Guys, if you go out and you're lucky enough that someone allows you the privilege to access a river or a lake from their property, do not go in there and trash it up. Do
No, take
that's
care of the property.
you
Help
know
them out with their property. If they want
even
help or need help,
yeah,
do help them.
even on public bodies of water, guys, clean up after yourself. Uh, I always keep extra trash bags and stuff in my vehicle because it never fails. You'll go out to one of your fishing spots and someone's been out there partying and they throw beer bottles, beer cans, uh, dirty baby diapers, trash wrappers everywhere, and it just ruins the fishing. Guys, respect the water, respect the area, and keep it clean.
Yeah, keep it clean and respect other people. If you see someone on the bank that's struggling to catch fish and you know they don't have the right gear on their line,
Yep.
offer to help them.
Yep.
Make their day better. Show them
I had a guy.
what you're using, how you're using it, and rig their lines up. Show them
Yep.
how it can better help them to catch fish.
I had a guy that was fishing right beside me, and he watched me pull four 40-pound plus fish in, just back to back to back. And Fins and Fowl was out there in his boat. He seen it as well. And this guy finally come up to me after I ended my live and stuff, and they could not believe how big these fish were I was pulling in and stuff. And his wife and him got to talking to me, and he was using braid. He's like, I can't get them to the bank. They keep breaking me off. I said, because there's tons and tons of rock in this water where you're fishing at. Braid does not like that.
Yeah,
So,
because nowadays in our market they have 3 different types of braids.
yep,
Actually, 4 different types of braids. They get the 4 strand, they get the 8 strand, they get the 12 strand, and the 24 strand.
yep,
24 strand is more resistant to sharper objects, and it won't break as easy as the 12 and the 4 strand.
yep. Well, this guy, I always carry extra stuff with me. I've got 3 tackle boxes that I keep with me at all time, and in one tackle box, the whole bottom of it is just full of extra spools of line. So when I was out there, I took him over. I showed him what I was using, why I was using it. I gave him some of the line. Told him spool this up on your reel, and they will quit breaking you off. You'll quit getting cut out. And
If I'm fishing rocky areas, I'll pull out my rod, my spinning reel with my Cajun line on it, and fish it. And I'm only using 17-pound Cajun because I've used that to bring in a bass boat out of the middle of a lake for a guy, and that's 2,000-pound bass boat.
yeah,
Where this guy can't go wading, he can't go swimming. I'm not going to tell you how I got out there without his leader line, but that's on the boat owner.
yeah,
I just
uh,
fished out there with a 4-ounce pyramid sinker and a big circle hook and hooked into the steering column and pulled it in sideways
yep,
with fishing game there. And a few other people recorded it. And if I had the video, I'd post it up on Facebook because that was an awesome video.
yep. Do we have any more questions out there?
Right now, they're giving Thomas is giving Creole crap about his hat.
No.
Yeah, he wore Sabrina's hat that Creole sent her,
Yeah,
and he didn't catch a fish today. Now he's blaming Creole for it. And Creole says, "Well, that was Serena's hat."
yeah.
But water temperatures.
Yes.
What would be your thoughts on the perfect temperature of water
Mm,
for blues and flatheads in channels?
Probably that early spring water before it gets to 65 degrees. Uh, I would say 50s to 60-degree water temperature uh, would be my favorite because that's when they're coming out of their wintering cycle. They come up and they'll hit the shallow water and they have a feed bag on. Your big fish, your small fish, they all hit like a runaway freight train. Uh, there is no picking, there is no finesse. You better have good rod holders or your rod will be gone.
Okay, Apache has a question for you. At Walmart, they sell catfish baits. Which would you recommend to buy if no one can catch bait on a short notice?
Apache, down here,
One, go ahead.
down here, they carry one that is called Danny King's punch bait. If you're just wanting to put fish on the bank, eater size fish, I would use that Danny King's punch bait over I would the fiber baits and that prepackaged shad. It does work, it does catch fish, and it will put them on the bank. You're not going to go catch 40 and 50 pounders consistently on it. Every once in a while, you will luck in to getting a fish on it, good quality, but it is an effective bait.
Danny, I will give you another piece of advice. You can go to your local bait shops that sell your live baits, like your minnows, your shad, your minnows, your night crawlers, your frozen shad, your frozen skipjack, your frozen moon eye, and stuff like that, and get some of the frozen baits and go out and fish with them, as well as taking a dozen or two of night crawlers with you.
Well, around here, a lot of our bait shops, it's seasonal. You can get them certain times, but you can get the crawdads, the bluegills, uh, stuff like that that they have alive, and you can fish live bait. But
Oh crap! Now we're going to chicken breast. Chat
yeah,
just went south. What's your thoughts on chicken for bait?
I have tried the chicken down here. Uh, I never had success on it, not even a bite. Uh, I told everybody I would give it a shot again this year, but uh, chicken does work in certain aspects in certain areas. You know, Creole, Creole basically he's got his PB on chicken bumping. He basically worked that chicken and stuck it in the fish's mouth. You
Yeah,
can't,
he knocked that catfish in the head with a weight. And when he
yeah,
seen that hook come by, he bit it.
yeah. Uh,
He
you
pissed off that catfish.
you can catch fish on chicken, guys. There's going to be times that you can catch fish on just about anything. Has just recently had that tournament, the
The
Glizzy one.
hot dog, the
Yeah,
hot dog tournament.
look how Bex and Steven did on hot dogs. Is that going to be a premier bait? Is that going to load big fish in the boat for you? No. Uh, can you eventually catch a big fish on it? Sure. Anything is possible, guys. If a fish is hungry, they'll eat. Like I said earlier, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but if you want to be successful and you're chasing bigger fish and you want to consistently catch monster fish, would I recommend chicken? No.
No. Apache, I will tell you this. You can take a bait rod holder with a bobber and a small number 6 hook and get wax worms from a bait shop and catch bluegill
Yep.
real quick. And you can catch maybe, if you find a good spot where you can catch 20 to 30 bluegills in 5 or 10 minutes, you got bait. And that's the best way you can do it. Get bluegill, you can use them live, you can use them whole, you can cut them up. And blues, flatheads, no matter what catfish it is, will eat it.
Yep. And guys, you can catch catfish on anything. Uh, it all depends on what you're going after. If you're fine just catching small eater fish and uh, stuff like that, by all means, use your chicken, use your hot dogs, use your punch bait, stuff like that. Really, really, really catches numbers of smaller fish at times. There's going to be times when you don't get any bites. You will not catch fish. But there is no guaranteed 100% magical bait that you can,
No,
that's guaranteed to produce fish.
I
Every
agree with you.
trip.
Because it's called fishing. It's not called catching. Because if you were, we'd have that magic bait on a hook all the time, bringing in those big numbers, bringing in those big cats, bringing in all sizes of cats all the time.
Yep.
We'd wear ourselves out in a day's time if we had that magic bait.
Yeah. And guys, if hot dogs and chicken was that good a bait, with as many people have been fishing for this many years, you would never get any chicken to eat, and you would never be able to cook a hot dog. There would be a shortage. They would not be able to keep them in the stores. Uh,
No,
uh,
it's like with chicken liver and beef liver. If they were the hottest thing on the market for catfish,
yep,
there would be a shortage.
yep. But then once again, I have seen fish caught on them,
I
guys.
have seen them, but you just got to find a way to keep those livers on the hook,
Yep,
and
Cheeto
that's the big
puffs.
dilemma.
I've seen catfish caught on Cheetos puffs, gummy worms, gummy bears. I mean,
No, I've seen it too. It's just Apache. That's why we have these talk shows to where we can answer your questions and help you learn something. So
yep.
go ahead, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell on my channel and Country Boys Catfishing channel and everybody else's channel in here in chat. And we'll gladly help you learn something.
Well, and like I said earlier, guys, if you ever have a question or you want to be a guest on Fishing 101 on Wednesday nights with me, just email me at countryboycatfishing@gmail.com, and I will answer and talk with anybody, and I will do my best to help you. If I cannot answer your question, I can get you in touch with someone that can. So,
All right. We talked a little bit about this before we went live. Let's talk about your show and what it's about and what you want to see, how you want to see your show grow.
I like to get knowledge out there, especially for the bank fishermen. There's not a whole lot of knowledge out there on bank fishing. And when most people get into fishing, they don't have the money to go out and spend on a boat. So they are fishing from the bank. They're bank fishermen. So I really want to get out there and get knowledge out to them, but I don't want to neglect the kayakers or the boaters, because there's things that the kayakers and the boaters do that are also successful from the bank. Uh, I want to get as much information out there and get people educated to where they have success, to where you don't have people getting discouraged and you don't hear these stories. Man, I've been fishing for 3 years and I just can't catch a fish. You don't want to hear that. You don't want people to get discouraged and turn off from fishing. So I want to put as much knowledge and information out there to educate people to where they can be successful. Uh, I want them to be successful. Uh, if you go out and you watch my show and you learn something and you try that technique, man, send me a picture of your catch. Let me know, because that really gives me satisfaction, because I know that I helped you get on fish. And but my show
No,
is, it's not a song and dance. It's not all thrills and frills. It is educational. I am there to help you get the information you need and the tools you need to become a successful catfish angler. And we'll also go over bait fish. And it's not all catfish, because if you're going to be successful as a catfisherman, you better be good at catching bait.
Right. And Creo, I do agree with you. In the body of water that you are fishing, if you catch a 10, 15, 20 pound cat, that is a monster for that body of water, because that may be the biggest that body of water holds for that
Yep.
style of fish. So, yeah, there's always monsters, whether it be 10, 15, 20 pound cats
Yep.
in lakes.
And,
And if you find a river that has a 40 or 50, keep fishing that river, because you might hook into an 80 or 100 pound cat.
and a trophy fish all depends on the angler. It
Right.
depends on the person catching it.
It's
It,
not what other people are catching
it
it considered as a trophy. It's what you catch in that body of water, or what you can fish for, that would be considered a trophy.
Well, and it's not just size, also it's the experience. You may
Right.
go and you may catch a 20-pound fish and reel him in, get him in, nothing. And you may go out and hook into a 5-pound fish, which is a lot smaller, but this fish swum you under a rock or in a dock or up in a tree, and you had to work that fish out of cover. You remember things like
It
that.
could have pulled drag on you.
Yeah. It's not always about the size catching the fish, it's the experience you have catching that fish.
Right. It's the experience and the pleasure that you had fighting it.
Yep.
It's not always about the size. It's about the fight, about the experience of that fish. It's about the thrill and the excitement of it.
That's like Dan said, it's all a matter of perspective.
Right.
That's exactly right, Dan. In life, in many areas of life, that holds true. The only difference sometimes between success and failure is your perspective. It's
Right.
how you perceive it.
It's how you perceive it, what you think at the time. That one, even if you're having a bad day and you catch a 15-pound channel, a 15-pound blue or flathead,
Yep.
that's a good day.
Yep.
Even though you were expecting something else, that's still a blessing.
Well, and try and learn from your experiences out on the water, guys. Not just your successful fishing trips. Don't just go out there and say, man, we killed them today. Why did you kill them today? What was different? What was different today from the other days you fished? Why were the fish here when they weren't there earlier? Same thing when you have a failure. When you go out and you get skunked, don't just say, man, I got skunked. Figure out why. Ask
Yeah.
yourself.
Look at your conditions.
Yep. Ask questions. Uh, don't just accept it. Don't go into stuff blind.
Hello, Sabrina. Welcome. Because it could be the weather, it could be the rain, it could be lightning, it could be really
Yep.
bad windy,
Just
it could
time
be
of
the water
year.
is really murky, muddy brown.
Yep.
Who knows? Take
The
notes. Look
season.
around and see what's going on and what's causing this.
Yep. It could be the season. It could be the time of year. You know, down here, when the creeks get up and we've had a lot of rain and it floods that lake, when it gets that water up, it comes out of its banks and it's up in that green grass on the bank. And there are fish up in there feeding. But once that lake goes down, they're still not there because that's dry ground. That's an exceptional point to where them fish are only there at a certain time under certain conditions. This is the stuff you got to learn.
Dan's saying, David, the last place I fished the other day, the guy next to me caught a 9.5 pound flathead. I think it would be a prime spot. I'm going to take pictures and I want to send it to you and get your thoughts.
Dan, I'll do that. Yeah, just send it to me. Uh, if there was a 9.5 pound flathead in there, there's probably bigger flathead in there.
Oh, I'd say the same. If there's a 9.5 pound, I'd almost guarantee you there's going to be a 40 or 50 pound, if not
Yep.
bigger, in there.
And guys, that's something y'all got to realize too. Your larger fish, your bigger class fish, may only feed once every 4 days.
Right, and you're playing Russian roulette trying to figure out
Yep.
what
So
days
don't
you're
just
fishing on, and if you're going
yep,
to get lucky and cast after and
yep.
cast a live bait to catch a big flathead. Because
If you
those
know the
flatheads,
habitat is there, if you know the habitat is there and fish are in that area, just because you fish it one day and don't catch them does not mean they are not there and you cannot catch them there. You may be on the first day, they may have fed yesterday and they're plumb full. And then it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to make that fish bite. Uh, you may be on the third day. Uh, you have to be there when that fish is feeding. So put the time in and don't give up on a spot too
yeah,
soon.
because you just got to fish that spot, even though it's big, good sized brush pile, and you know there's flatheads in there. Keep fishing it because
Yep.
flatheads only eat for once every 4 days.
Yep. And
Because when they do eat, they're going to gorge themselves so damn tight. It's going to take them 4 days to digest everything they've had.
yeah, and especially with flathead, if you're fishing down trees, submerged timber, and you're fishing that underwater, and you catch a flathead out of there, don't just leave. Throw back in there, because a lot of times in that timber like that, in the wood, if there's one there, there's more there.
Oh yeah, because if it's a big tree down in there and it's like a big giant cottonwood with a big 30-foot canopy on it,
Yep.
you know there's going to be 15 or 20 or 30 cats in there.
Yep. And
Big flatheads and blues.
yep. And them catfish, them flatheads will get into that cover.
Mm-hmm.
You
They'll
know.
get way back in there and
Yep.
they'll wait for someone to throw a bait or a fish coming by, swimming by there and just attack it
Yep.
because that's what they do best. They're an ambush predator.
Yep. They're opportunistic.
Oh yeah, and if a catfish gets in there too close, it's dinner time for him
Yep.
because he will get eaten.
Yep. I got a little bit longer before I have to get off of here. If anybody's got any questions,
Yeah, you and me both. Yeah, I got to do a split shift tomorrow.
there's big chunks of trees down near the bank. Only thing that worries me was there were three big turtles laying on one of the logs. But Dan, if the
Don't like Epic said earlier. If there's trees there, but there's turtles up on a log, fish out there where the trees in the water,
yep,
where you know where the cats are.
yep.
Do a bobber rig and drop the baits just above the trees where the big cats are. Get them to come out of the trees to bite the bait.
Judy Booty and Darla made it in.
Hey, Judy Booty and Darla, how you doing?
Dan, the thing with that too is them turtles are on top. They're on that stump sunning. Uh, your bait is going to be in the water.
I checked that Great Outdoors.
You can get in there, and just because there's turtles on top of that log does not mean there's not fish in that area. They may not be big fish, they may not be monsters, but there's some kind of fish in that area, or those turtles would not be in that area. If you don't think turtles eat fish, catch a live bluegill and throw them out there.
John, that ain't a fire. That's a bomb part. That's a I don't know. I wouldn't say that's a fire. That's something else other than a fire, Sean. He sent me a picture of what Mike Turner did.
I've seen that. I've seen that in chat.
That that was that's not a campfire. That's not a bonfire. That's just a roaring, ripping fire.
Yeah.
I just seen the pictures of it. And I'm telling you what, that lit up the night sky in the daylight.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
I'll send it to you. But if you guys don't have any more questions, uh, you can hook up with Dan or me with questions or Epic through on here anytime we're live. And next week we'll have Brad Caudill on here as well, which would be another amazing guest. And the third week, I'm going to try. If you guys want to be part of a panel on the third week, hit me up in Messenger and let me know, and I'll get it set up.
Yeah, anytime you want to have me on, Avid, or get me up on panel, man, just hit me up. I love coming on, sharing information, uh, helping each other out, helping everybody.
This I'm gonna. I like doing what I'm doing with the beginners,
Yep.
but I'm trying to try something a little different to where we can help beginners a little bit more with answering their questions
Yep.
as well as putting a face to the name.
Yep. Well, and it's
So
nice that they have a platform that they can do that.
right,
When I started fishing, there was not a platform that you could go to and ask questions. And
right.
a lot of the groups on Facebook, when they go in there and they ask questions, them guys really give them a hard time. Uh, that's not what I'm about. Uh, there is no stupid question except the question you don't ask. Uh, if you ask me an honest question, I will give you an honest answer.
Right. Judy Booty, hit me up on Messenger, and I'll get you hooked up with a date for as a guest as well. I'm trying to get a hold of Mike Irving because I'd like to get him on here as a guest as well because I know he had to have a wealth of knowledge just like Epic. But if you can get a hold of Epic for me and let him know after the week after Judy Booty, I'd like to get a panel up here with you, him, and probably a couple others in here to help answer and talk about catfishing and
Yep.
help answer questions for beginners or whatever they haven't had.
Yeah, I don't mind answering anybody's question. I have no secrets. I put my knowledge out there to help others. Uh, that's what it's about, guys. You have a lot of people, they won't tell people where they're fishing, what bait they're using. I don't keep none of that secret.
I don't keep none of it a secret because if it's going to help someone catch a fish, even
Yeah,
a giant,
yeah.
I'll take him there and show them how to fish it, give them the bait,
I
show them
share
where
it.
to cast.
Yep, I share it and I share that information so that it can help others. I mean, if you knew how to cure cancer and you did not share it with anybody and you tucked that to that grave, who benefited from that?
No one.
Nobody but you and your ego. So it's the same thing here. By sharing that information, I can help people and make them more successful. And, just like taking a youngster out, that's an opportunity to make an impact and change somebody's life.
Yeah, that's what Brad Caudill said. He's basically agreeing with what you said. Rivers and outlets are good structures for bank our boats
Yep.
to fish.
Yep.
So, what would be your closing thoughts?
Guys, don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to try different things and don't be afraid to move. If you're fishing and you know that there's fish in that area, there has been fish in that area, uh, and you throw out and you're not getting anything, either throw out deeper or bring some lines back shallower. If you get to fish with multiple rods, stagger them rods, throw them in different depths, different areas, figure out where the fish are traveling. Uh, but don't.
And another thing I'd like to add to that, sorry about this. If you have multiple baits that you have with you, try changing your baits.
Yep. Yep.
Go ahead, bud.
Uh, don't get locked in on a certain place and a certain depth. Listen to what the fish are telling you. Uh, pay attention to your surroundings and what's going on around you. Uh, that is a big tip. If you
No,
if you have questions, guys, don't be too proud to ask. There's plenty of people in the catfish community that will be more than happy to help you if you just take the step and let them know.
no. You said your show was on Wednesday night, right?
Wednesday night, I follow Patriot James, and I just do it on my regular channel. I do it here from the house. So on my channel on Wednesday nights, I've got the talk show, and I also do live fishing. I live stream a lot. Uh, I'm just now learning to edit, and I posted my first video the other day. I'm just figuring it out. Uh, but I kind of do a little bit of everything, and I'm trying any avenue that I have to share information and get knowledge out there. Uh, CPR is not practiced real big down here, but I do have people that practice it, and we're getting the word out and trying to get it uh, to where it's common practice to help save the resources and the bodies of water down here.
So who's your guest for next week?
I'm not sure yet. I've got to talk to a gentleman tomorrow. I talked to him earlier tonight, and he wanted me to message him tomorrow, but it'll be a good one.
Do I know this gentleman?
Yes, everybody knows him.
Would he have school bus driver in his name somewhere?
Nope, not yet.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. Never mind.
Yeah.
I know who you. Can I drop a hint?
Yeah.
Assistant principal.
Nope. Nope.
No?
Nope.
Damn.
I'll give you a hint. Lake Wiley.
PC?
Nope. Lake Wiley and Chicken Man. There's two hints.
Don't think it's the same person, but I don't know. I might be
Dieter
wrong.
Malhorn.
Oh, Dieter?
Yep, Dieter.
I was thinking Palmetto Cats.
I'm going to try and get Kevin on too. I've reached out to a lot of people. Art with 1 Ton, they bank fish a lot. I'm trying to reach out to everybody and give everybody a chance to get up, and even some of the smaller channels to get them out and kind of get them noticed and recognized and get them viewers. And anything we can do to help each other be successful and get knowledge out there about protecting these catfish and stuff, the better off we are.
Exactly.
The more voices we have, the stronger we become as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like a chain. You know, you take one link, you cannot do a whole lot with that one link. But if you keep adding links to that chain, pretty soon that chain will be strong enough that you will be able to move any object that's in your way. And
that's a perfect shot. You said it perfectly right there for the catfisherman and
yep,
basically catfisherman and crappie fisherman.
Yep, we've got to link together and get
right. We got the information, we got the resources, we got the people that do it a lot. So if you can't reach out there and ask them a question, you're at the loss. They're not. Like my grandfather always said, the only stupid question is the one that's not asked.
Yep. And guys, if you're in a position and you're talking to some of these people about regulations and getting regulations enforced and put in place, remember to be courteous. Don't get frustrated. Don't let it get the better of you. Don't go in there with an attitude, because they're going to shut their ears to you, and you're going to make it harder on the next guy that goes in there and tries to gain an audience with them.
Right.
You know, you catch more flies with sugar than you do vinegar, you know, that sort of thing. You don't have to agree with everything they say. You can still voice your opinion, but be respectful. Sometimes it's not always what you say, but it's how you say it.
Exactly. It's not always what you're saying or what you're talking. It's a lot of times it's your body language that's behind it that says a lot.
Yep. Well, Abbott, I appreciate you having me on, and it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to have to get off here before my wife strangles me.
Oh, we're fixing to close it down here in a second.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Country Boy, for coming up here and sharing your wealth of knowledge and making this a great show. I want to thank Epic for coming in here and joining us for a little while and making it even better. But
Yeah.
with the wealth of knowledge that we put out tonight, I hope that we help
Yeah.
and look forward to more great shows because I plan on still helping the younger beginners out
Yeah.
and try to get more information out there to them.
Yeah. You do a
I,
great
I want I want to get more beginners out where they get their names out there on the catfish community and
Yeah.
get them with the links to where they can get the help they need.
Yep. And you do a great job with the smaller channels, the newer people, getting them out there, getting recognized. I can't tell you how much respect I have because you put yourself aside and try to help others.
I
Uh,
love doing that. That's what I
it's
like doing. I'm not going to stop it. I'm
Yep,
just
it's
trying to
very
add
rare.
something to it to help them along even more.
Yep, it's very rare in these days and times to find somebody that cares more about others than they do themselves. Sometimes, most of the people in this world, I find they're very self-absorbed and wrapped up in themselves. And you,
Yeah, because a lot of people, I'm not just saying the catfish community, but other YouTubers,
yep,
all they want is sub. They're not going out
yep,
to help other people or anything else.
yep,
Catfish community, we're here to help. We're here to help people.
yep. That's why
We help
everybody goes
to get
together.
information out, but I've seen the need to get people's faces out in the catfish community to where people can see who they are and get
Yep,
to know them.
yep,
Is like Mark, uh, Roger, Palmetto Cats, Norm.
yep,
They were all on my show.
yep,
Mark and Palmetto Cats. They were new to YouTube when I brought them on, and look
yep,
at their channels. They
yep,
took off like rockets.
yep.
Roger too. He took off like a rocket.
Yeah, and I watch
He
all.
he's fixing to hit 1,000.
Yep. Yeah, I watch all of them myself. I mean, there's a lot of great out there. Uh,
When I started doing lives, there's only 2 catfishing shows a week. That's Lyle on Monday and Patriot James on Wednesday.
yep,
And James was talking about we needed to get someone throughout the rest of the week. So I'm like, okay, I'll do Friday nights. And next thing we know, we got Norm doing Saturday nights, Kevin doing Sundays.
yep,
Uh, they came alive after that. It
yep,
just that one seed just grew.
yep. Yeah, it's really blossomed. The catfish community is growing.
Catfish community now everybody wants to do it live.
Yep, and it's really great. Uh, the way everybody pulls together and tries to help
Mm-hmm.
each other. Uh, you know, I don't even watch cable or satellite TV anymore. Uh, I watch my YouTube.
Yeah,
Uh,
because now, like Brad Cardell says, they're going to watch 7 to 10 catfish shows a day or
yep,
more.
yep. And if I'm not fishing, I'm watching fishing. I'm trying to
Yeah.
do something.
When I'm at work, I'm listening to it.
Yep,
I may be busy doing other things, getting out cars or driving a security car, but I have something on the catfish community going on and listening to it.
yep,
But I'm not watching it. I may be listening to it, and I may be doing paperwork and listening to it, but
yep.
it's still on.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, Avid. I appreciate everybody that come into chat, spent the night with us. Epic popping in. I love talking with him. I can't get enough. Uh, I really appreciate all y'all guys. Like to thank you for your time. And like I say, if you ever have questions or need anything, feel free to contact me through my email or Facebook. Uh, I'm always available. So
Let us know how we can help.
main thing is
Well,
just getting the word spread. I want to get the word out. Being a new show, a lot of people don't even know it's on yet. And with
well,
YouTube, you never can tell. A lot of times, YouTube don't send people notifications and stuff like that. So,
can someone post Country Boy Catfishing's link up in chat if I have a mod still in here? Georgia, can I get you to post Country Boy Catfishing's link up in chat for me, please? Want to bet, Dan? Now try it, Dan. You know what I did, huh? Thank you, Brad.
Dan, be careful. Don't hit yourself in the head with that wrench.
You know he's going to knock himself out.
Yeah.
He's going to swing at you hard and knock himself back out.
Yeah. He says, I'm not special. Dan, I've never heard anyone say you were not special. It all depends on your definition of special, brother.
Special is in special ed or special in short bus?
Yeah.
Dan, that's his special ed branch. Our special short bus branch. Don't hit yourself with it, please.
Yeah.
I don't want you coming back and telling me you got black and blue eyes by swinging around too much. Oh, now he says you got jokes.
Oh, yeah. Guys, if you don't get out and laugh and have fun, you're not enjoying life. Don't take everything so serious. Change the things you can and don't stress about the things you can't. Ask for wisdom to know the difference.
Everybody in chat, please check out Country Boy Catfishing show Wednesday night directly after Patriot James. And let's show some love and some respect and help him grow.
You see Dan's comment? My
What he
bus
said.
my seat was mounted to the front bumper.
Man, was that kind of short bus you ride?
Yeah.
I'll be the driver. I'll drive it.
Yeah. But
May not like what I run into.
yeah. Well, guys, like I said, I thank you, everyone. I can't thank you enough. I
It
know
was an amazing time tonight, Dave.
Yep.
I'm glad that it worked out the way it did. And
Yep.
there's a lot of great information put out.
Yep.
We had chat with questions. We had chat with Epic and with you two both on here. The
Yeah.
chat almost went to a standstill.
Yeah. Chat really slows down. And my deal with Epic is I get mesmerized listening to them and I forget about everything else. I get into that zone with them. And
If I ever could get Epic on here as a guest one night, the questions I could toss at him
yeah.
has been questions that have been asked by me by a fellow bank fisherman that I don't want to answer until I'm sure of the answer from a biologist or someone of that aspect.
Epic is a great guest. He has so much knowledge. I love listening to him. I could talk to him for hours and never get bored. He's just one of the people that he draws people to him.
He does. And he fishes the same river waters I do.
Yep.
But I have not been on the Scary River yet to fish it because I don't know where the damn Scary River is.
Probably scary getting there. I've seen some of this stuff Epic does.
Hey, he takes a jet boat with a flat bottom boat to some of the roughest terrains. That makes
Jumping
your butt
rocks.
pucker. Hey,
Yeah.
that makes your butt pucker.
And stuff. Yep. My heart's bad. I'm afraid he'd give me a heart attack.
He hits a wrong rock. I may defecate myself.
And then he points it out. He's like, "Oh, did you see that rock? We could have died." It's like, no,
Yeah, I'm like, I
even
seen that
said
rock
nothing.
just barely missed by maybe a
Yeah,
16th of an inch.
yeah,
Or that giant boulder they just parked by that they could have flown into.
yeah. He's like, "Boy, we got lucky. Don't even let me know." But
Him and Sean in that boat on the Scary River on his newest video he put out.
yeah,
Boy,
it was a lot of
like
fun. Love.
like like Sean said, that'll make your butt pucker.
Yeah, I love watching them, but
I love watching him, but I don't know what my butt can pucker up that tight.
yeah. Well, Abbott, thanks a lot. Like I said, I'm getting the evil eye from my wife. I need to get off here before she whoops knots on my head.
Taylor, thank you, and I appreciate the time. And
And
hopefully
anytime
next
you,
time she's
yeah,
a
anytime you
gracious
want me back
supporter.
on, just holler at me.
I will.
I will be glad to come and talk anytime.
All right. I'll let you know about it in a couple weeks.
All right. Thanks, Abbott.
You're welcome.
Night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, Brad. Next week, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, will be Brad Caudell. If I pronounce that right, Brad, I don't mean to butcher your name. And if you want to be a guest up here sometime, hit me up on Facebook Messenger and let me know your YouTube name, and I'll get you booked. And we'll see how many more guests we can get, new people we can get up on here, get them out in the catfish community and stuff like that. And with that being said, good night all, and we'll see you next time I go fishing, which will probably be Saturday or Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. Good night. God bless. Tight lines. Thank you, Fox Hunter.